like this to like.
No, wait, she was about to do it again. She was about to do it again, dude. She's so dumb. But the content is watching the woman get berated, Erud. I don't think you know what show you're going. The content isn't intellectual debate. It's woman being berated. She's got a fine point here. This is a totally reasonable point. Pisco, my hero. Pisco, my hero. Pisco does have a very silverback demeanor to him, doesn't he?
I was gonna say on the score, there are people in this space,
I'm jumping out.
content creators that have.
I am very concerned that she's stolen stuff from me, and that upsets me deeply. We are going to take a look at the Lib and Learn podcast, okay? Now, it's featuring Erudite and Hutch here. Now, there's a specific moment we really want to see, but I want to get the full lead up. I want to get the vibe. Apparently, Econoboi epically owns NSE, and I want to make sure we see that. But, yeah, let's take a look. Let's see how it goes.
Got kind of wild, and then like Lonerbox showed up, and Mudahar showed up, and
What was it on?
we were talking a lot about like. So I don't know if you know this about me, Kyla, but I tend to spar a lot with the left, and
You know, I think I know something about you in that way. Yeah, I've noticed.
Isn't that something like every single one of you do all the time? Almost like you don't give a fuck about you know, the actual issue, and you just want to find easy targets to be up on and look good in front of, because you probably don't disagree with these people as much as you think you do.
And so it started kind of generally about like disagreements about like, I guess, tactics, and then it turned into a conversation about
Israel Palestine. I'm just confirming, right?
So I seriously, I don't know how you basically see yourself as on the left, but spend like 100% of your time fighting lefties. Why are you doing that?
But I mean, like, it was in the context of like the Hassan Ethan drama, and I mean that was like one of the craziest debates I've ever been a part of. Like, I don't know. I guess you just have to see it to know what I was talking about.
Because it got really intense and spicy, or because of length, or both.
Yeah, I mean, both. Okay. Yeah, both. It and Ethan talked about it on stream today. He's like said he wants me to come on at some point. So it's like, and then that invites like a bro. I mean, like, I already have like a small little cadre of like lefty accounts on Twitter that just. Speaking of your Vanguard boys, Jessiah. I don't know if you know this.
What about?
They talk so much about.
Bro, they are.
I know they used to. They like went after me. They went after you.
What did you do? What did you say?
You'd have to ask them.
Dude, they're like laughing about it because I guarantee Hutch got mogged by the Vanguard guys, right? Didn't they? They're making fun of him having a lip ring and shit. It sounds like you got mogged.
I mean, like, one of them made fun of me for having a lip ring at one point when the co-host
I'm aware of that.
When the co-host has a nose ring, but like, no, they like.
Yeah, you should watch. Sorry. Is the co-host a woman? Woman with a nose ring versus man with a lip ring. Yeah, that's a different thing, buddy. Bad news.
I was talking to Crystal Ball, and you should watch the video because, like, they paused the video. Sorry, what?
They're just mad about it generally.
These people, I'm telling, like, these people hate me. They've hated me for a long time because I insist on like just being super practical and pragmatic.
Thank you for the $5 Rat Destroyer. He is bold. That's very true. Thank you.
Guiding principle, and they just fucking hate that. And so.
I didn't realize like there was like new anti-Hutch content, but yeah,
we should invite them on, is what I'm saying. I would like to have the
let's bring our boys on. Yeah.
Wait, Pisco, are you friends with the Vanguard?
We've collabed. So Josiah's collabed with them. I think I've definitely collabed with them. We had a good conversation. I don't think they've collabed with Econoboi, but you know, if they're going against my boy Hutch, I mean. Shit's gonna get weird.
We're gonna have to ref that. We're gonna have to ref that. It's gonna be super awkward.
On the Live and Learn, guys.
Oh dear.
No, guys, we're all friends, all right? We should all be friends.
Yeah, I really like Zach and Gavin from the Vanguard. I thought their attacks on you were like over the lip ring, like that was like fucked up and petty. But I mean,
but everything else not petty.
Well, I haven't heard the other criticisms. I don't know what
they called me. For example, they call me a Destiny sycophant, which is pretty fucking unbelievable. I mean, I realize that's
so unbelievable
topic, but like
whoa, that's so unbelievable. Whoa, I can't believe they would do that. That's so unbelievable. Who would ever say something like that about Hutch? About Hutch? Yeah, no one would ever say that. So unbelievable, so wild. Look at everyone looking away.
I mean, but everything else, not petty.
Well, I haven't heard the other criticisms. I don't know what
they called me. For example, they call me a Destiny sycophant, which is
so like erudite's like grimacing, or it's like, oh, Pisco averts his eyes, pondering politics, looks a bit disappointed. Like, okay, man. Econoboi is like sitting there mogging, frankly, with his fucking trans flag in the background.
Pretty fucking unbelievable. I mean, I realize that's a very difficult topic, but like
that's not fair.
Like,
that's
it's
not
unbelievable.
Fair.
Like it's completely like baseless, right?
Yeah, so, that's not fair. I imagine, like, you know, as a general, like even our disagreements, they disagree with. They think Democrats are able to do things that Democrats are not able to do with the margins that they have. So
yes, I've talked to these guys before. I'm being an asshole. I definitely know who the Vanguard is. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
I didn't forget.
No, like, yeah, we definitely set that up. I'm sure they'd be game for it too. Now it might get heated, so prepare yourself for that. But
no. If they don't like Hutch,
no, not here, not now. I'm just saying, like, you know, Hutch, if you want them to join Live and Learn.
Yes,
yeah,
I would rather have these conversations face to face because they're like reacting to my content. Like, for example, let me give you one example. But like, I said that, like, I guess one of them tweeted out that Joe Biden should have forgiven more student debt. And I just obviously pointed out, I'm like, you know, I pointed out the Supreme Court thing. I don't remember how I phrased the tweet.
Right.
And the guy in the video that I watched today, which one is the one that doesn't have long hair?
Zach.
Zach. Yeah, he goes, Hutch interacted with my tweet the other day, and he, you know, said that the Supreme Court struck down the student debt relief. And it's like, Hutch, executive order, you ever heard of that? It's like, come on, use your brain. And I'm like,
did he really?
Well, the Supreme Court struck down the executive order. So
yeah,
Pisco, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, the problem with that is if President Biden were to sign a more expansive executive order to cancel student loans, it would just have been struck down by the Supreme Court, which is the same thing that happened in, was it Mohila versus Missouri or whatever?
I think I have two thoughts on that. One, I actually do think it would be legally more justifiable to get rid of all student loans. But I still agree with Jessiah that they're looking for a reason to stop it. And I do agree with Hutch that the courts almost certainly would have ruled against him based on, you know, their major questions, doctrine, sub-thesis. I almost think that the court was signaling that they would strike down a more expansive one when they said the major questions doctrine thing, because they technically didn't rely on the major questions doctrine. But it's just like the thing with the Federal Reserve. They're signaling to the executive branch, hey, we're going to strike this down if you try to do something more expansive, even though legally, justifiably, there's more legal basis to get rid of all the student loan debt. But I want to say one more thing, though. I think Biden should have shredded all of the documents from the Department of Education.
Pisco, exactly. No, exactly. That's what I wish we had a penny president, because
fuck out of those.
Look, who's losers appeal to? Serious question. Like, Pisco is like the only one that I have any fucking respect for here. I'm gonna be honest. Unfortunately, like, again, I said everything I've got to say about Hutch earlier. Like, I literally don't know why you would ever watch Hutch. I don't know why you would ever dedicate time to that. You gotta have something going on. You've got to be entertaining, or you've got to have some specialist knowledge, preferably both. You know, like, there's got to be, you got to have something to fucking. What the fuck does Hutch have to offer? What the fuck does Hutch have to offer? It is just like standard dem shill moderate lib talking points delivered in like a competent but not very interesting, engaging, energetic, funny, or anything way. Like, it's just lame as fuck. Jessiah, I'll say I have like a lack of respect for Jessiah. I think Jessiah's fine. He does like David Pakman type content, right? I mean, you can't really, like, you can't shit on that too much. It's fine. It's whatever. Econoboi is very limp. Very limp, very wet, got chewed out by Brianna Wu. Very embarrassing stuff for him. Erudite, I have spoken about extensively. I don't need to summarize my thoughts to you on Erudite right now. But Pisco, like, he's a lawyer, he's a smart guy. He's, it feels like he's motivated in the right direction. You know, like, he's principled. If there is a principle he believes in, that he feels like his, you know, side are abandoning or something, he fights for that, which is, you know, I appreciate that. And he, you know, raped Destiny on several debates.
Zach and Gavin are absolutely correct.
Yeah. If President Biden, and again, I think it's great. It's just it parlays so well with the immunity ruling as well, right? Because if President Biden came out and he was like, look, I'm not canceling student debt. I'm just completely destroying the ability to collect the loans mechanically, right? Like, oh, I mean, yeah, they're saying I have to collect this. They're saying I have to collect this debt, but I don't know who it owes to. Like, what?
So here's my thing: is it feels like people like Hutch, who are just like performative losers, get hung up. It's like this retarded thing that happens. Why would you spend your time if there's someone who ultimately they might bitch and cry and kick their fucking feet and drag their heels or whatever, say the Democrats aren't doing enough, and then when you ask them how are the Democrats not doing enough, the answer they give is something totally impossible that the Democrats couldn't have done with the vote margins, and it's like, or like the margins of the House, Senate, whatever, and so they couldn't do it or anything. It can be worth pointing that out, but when your whole thing is attacking these people who ultimately support Dems, like, what the fuck do you think you're achieving for your political cause or whatever? You can't go around, hand-wringing at people for not being politically effective if you're then going to do this retarded shit where you spend your entire time bickering with lefties, I'm
not going to open an investigation, right? I mean,
you could just say that this is one of those senior moments. Those senior
you have no power.
Right.
The executive gets to decide whether to keep documents, right?
Exactly.
Like, have to keep those documents,
right?
I'm allowed to determine
students so much. Why do you hate students? Like,
yeah,
so
good point.
I mean, class people.
A little bit of it is like misogyny, to be honest with you. Like most college students are female or women, so like
how much when you say a little bit,
part of it.
Can you like quantify it? When you say a little bit, can you like?
I don't like trust women. Is what I'm. No, I'm just playing. I supported student debt relief. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they, I'd have to listen to the specific complaint, but if it was just like, hey, he should have had a different executive order, which was more expansive, that wouldn't have worked because the Supreme Court would have struck that down anyway. Now, if their argument was, and this is where you need to tell me, Hutch, Biden's executive order would have been struck down no matter what, but we would have wanted him to get caught trying, like basically go for the 3-pointer and have it overturned, like then I would understand, because a lot of people argue for that on the left, like, okay, we understand that it would run into the Supreme Court, but we want to see more aggressive virtue signaling from Biden on these things. What was their criticism? Was it they wanted him to get caught trying, or they thought that an executive order would literally solve the problem?
No, they literally just said like, ever heard of executive orders? Like, use your brain. And that was
Zach, Gavin, if you're watching, guys, that just wouldn't have worked. That just wouldn't have worked. Now with the
I want to ask Kyla, I don't know if you guys have talked to her about it yet, but like your appearance on like whatever with Andrew Wilson, did you guys discuss that yet?
No, not yet. Go ahead.
Andrew Wilson.
About Jay Dyer.
It was Jay Dyer and Jim Bob. Andrew Wilson, I debated on whatever like a year and a half ago, I think.
That's what Hutch is talking about. He wants to go back. He wants to.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just remembering. I'm confusing it. But no, you had a recent appearance on whatever. I mean, like, can you talk about like you've been on there multiple times, right? Like, what's that experience like? Like, you show up to the studio and then
what a stupid, awful question.
It's very there's
inviting.
no AC. I don't know if you guys know this, but California hasn't learned a technology called AC. I didn't know that California was just like kind of technologically reductive like that, but that's
neither
cool.
is Canada, to be fair, erudite. Come on.
Yeah, but we don't need it. We would need AC for like a month.
I think it's because you haven't figured it out. I think that's why Canada.
We just store ice blocks in our basement and then lay on it in the summer.
That's a good point.
So it's stifling hot. It is. You walk in, and it's like burning hot. Brian's super great. He's very like friendly, reasonable. The frustrating part is like,
who's Brian? Is he the host?
Brian's the host. Like, he's like the moderator, but he's only going to moderate against the my side, right? And
the
so
woman,
it's like,
yeah.
I think I basically got interrupted the whole time from Jay Dyer. He was calling me like fat at one point. He kept like, you're bulking. You're bulking. Because somebody at the very beginning been like, oh, erudite, you're looking a little fat. And I was like, well, yeah, I just like finished a bulk. Like, I was just being autistic and responded seriously to a I shouldn't have, obviously. And then like in the middle of us talking about sex versus gender, I was like, well, how do you define sex? And he was like, penis. And I was like, you realize like even at a biological level, like you at least need to talk about things like gametes. Like I start listing a number of other things that matter for determining sex. And he just starts screaming over top of me "Oh, you're bulking, you're bulking," and I don't know why I didn't do this. I should have just been like, "Stand up, okay, motherfucker, stand up, and we'll compare, and we'll see who's fucking bulking right now."
The reason why they don't. The reason they never define that, erudite, and you're right to get those definitions, is because the minute they say small gametes or large gametes, or if they say chromosomes, or if they say sexual organs, they recognize that then biologically, scientifically, there are more than two sexes, and they know that that's coming because they know that there have been cases of individuals who produce no gametes.
Most of these people don't know what gametes means. Like, I asked them to define a gamete. I was like, "What is a gamete?" And they
they're like executive,
Wait, dude, I don't want. No, I feel bad because it's just gone up, but I'm like so hyped. Liquid Sonic just released a new video. He's back out of retirement. Let's go. Let's go. Dude. I can't wait to watch that.
Legislative, judicial.
Which is wild because these are the debate bros of the Christian world. These are the presuppositions. They actually suck. And if you're a presuppositional thinker, I think Wilson is enough.
Hey, Liquid Sonic is back. I was in VC with J-Stalk last night, and I was bemoaning the loss of Liquid Sonic among other things. I'm sick of people who make videos, man. They're so like lazy. They just like, they either tell you, or they start making videos, they tell you about a video they're making, and it never fucking comes out. Or they stop making videos. But Liquid Sonic's back. Shamu assured me he was not wasting time in spicy chat shit posting instead of working on his video. And surely Morale Live will put together the video he was entertaining the idea. Surely. Right?
They're so insecure about you clarifying terms like Kyla was doing in the general. And I think it's such a nice antidote to what they're doing. But in general, yeah, you should know the arguments against your position. And we've done this sex gender argument enough times that they should know it's a losing argument. And so great job.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. Jay was pretty friendly like beforehand.
Well, I did the glass video. I'm not, the glass. I didn't care about glass. I was never interested in the glass drama. But Morale was entertaining the idea of working on a video that I am interested in, a drama that I am interested in. So
like tossing jokes. He was showing me his music that he makes live, and I was like, oh, cool, because I'm a nice person and I tend to.
How does his music compare to Tim Pool's?
Tim Pool makes music? I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Boy. Yo, put it on.
No, fuck you. I'm not going
to. Put it on.
If we're going to put that on, you have to sing Les Mis, Pisco.
Oh,
little like ONC factory looking skate park in his compound warehouse or whatever. My understanding is that it is under construction though. It looked like they were doing a lot of shit to it when I was there. So it was a pretty crazy.
You have to sign a release. You have to sign a release and like hand over the rights to your firstborn child before you're able to.
I forgot about the release signature. Yeah.
So guys, we're all.
There's a release. I didn't sign anything.
I think it's just liability. You didn't sign a release.
You didn't sign anything? Oh,
no, I just showed up.
I gotta say, what a fucking strange and terrible choice Erudite has made with her mic placement here. Why is it like right in front of the camera? Like it's so.
I'm not signing.
They just showed up. I just showed up, and they're like, "All right, here's this thing." I'm like, "All right."
Also, does every single one of them have an SM7 bit? Oh my god.
Do it, I guess. I don't. They didn't ask me to sign anything. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Okay, I would never sign away my rights to Tim Pool, unlike you guys apparently. Okay. But no, I didn't sign anything, fortunately, I guess.
And speaking of Hutch, she's actually got an appearance on Tim Pool this Friday.
Oh, that's great. I'm definitely going to tune into that for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I wanted to like delve more into your experience still. Like, can you just like after you go on whatever, like what do your socials look like for a few days?
Honestly, in this case, so I set up a pretty good clip system like right before going in. And like big shout out to community members. We just started farming clips like crazy. My socials blew up, like blew the fuck up. Which is really good. I think I gained 3,000 followers, I think cross platform probably. I think more by this point.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
But I like really popped off. You always know that you've like done a good job if there's people that come to you like, you're still wrong, but you did a pretty good job. And I'm like, man, the fact that they can even admit that, and I'm a woman,
That's the litmus test.
that's a pretty big compliment. I don't know. Personally, when I fight with like really hateful, like tratty men and stuff like that, I will say like their community is really like aggressive on Twitter, and they'll just like post memes of me like going like this to like.
No, wait, she was about to do it again. She was about to do it again, dude. She's so dumb. Dude, she actually had to stop herself. She was about to just do the action again and give people another clip. She's so dumb.
Like tratty men and stuff like that. I will say like their community is really like aggressive on Twitter, and they'll just like post memes of me like going like
dude, why?
Like this to like them to make fun of them or whatever.
Right.
But honestly,
everyone's laughing. Everyone's dude, fucking Josiah's losing it.
Like aggressive on Twitter, and they'll just like post memes of me like going like this to like them to make fun of them or whatever.
Right.
But honestly, the most like deranged hate I've ever gotten has always been from leftists. Like all my swatting histories, all my doxing histories, it's always from leftists. So like they're not too bad.
I believe it. Sorry.
Yeah. Like honestly, they're pretty good.
Actually, right wingers are actually way nicer than lefties. These are on the left, by the way. These are meant to be left-leaning liberals.
Do you get like unhinged?
Actually, the Nazis are way nicer than the Kai.
Like death threats from any of the people when you
Leftists?
go on whatever?
No,
period.
No, leftists exclusively. Yeah, leftists, but not never from the. I think the worst that's happened with gripers. There's one griper that will send me like deep fake porn that he makes of me, and that's about it. It's weird, but I just blocked the email. So
That's pretty weird. You know, I wouldn't put that in the normal category. Personally.
Not normal, but the amount of swatting
it wasn't me.
Yeah, is a lot higher. So I don't know. Like being a nobody, I'm like literally a nobody. So yeah, it's a little deranged. So yeah, my socials are pretty good. And then me and Brian honestly get along super well. Like we have the same humor style. So it's this weird mixture where I'm like, Brian, like,
mentally disabled.
Why are you? Like Brian would literally tell me in between debates that he's like, yeah, Jay was so annoying. He was awful. And I'm like, then moderate them. Just moderate them. But
the content is watching the woman get berated, Erud. I don't think you know what show you're going. The content isn't intellectual debate. It's woman being berated. That's what the whatever podcast. I don't think you understand the game, Erudite.
Is he audience captured? Like, is that what it is?
They're audience captured. They all are.
Yeah, absolutely. But like Brian,
unlike these people, unlike the least audience captured people on earth.
He always treats me super
true free
well.
thinkers.
Food. He helps like cover my like travel and stuff like that. So honestly, he's great to me. Like Brian. The social wise, I posted a couple of clips. Jay Dyer blocked me pretty quickly.
So I guess there's not a rematch coming.
I don't think so. A bunch of his fans did like this like Grok who won, and all the AI systems keep saying that I won because I just didn't devolve in it. Like it wasn't a debate. It literally instantly was just him insulting me and interrupting me and being like, what's your system of like, you know, I'm a presuppositionalist and I solve Agrippa's trilemma by being coherent. And I'm like, you can't solve Agrippa's trilemma. That's what Agrippa's trilemma is. Nobody solves it. This is why this entire conversation is fucking stupid. It's because all axioms are circular fundamentally. And we just circled that for like 3 hours. That was the whole conversation. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, presuppositionalists are amongst the most bizarre group of people on the internet. I understand that they're all pretty much descended from Darth Dawkins, who has been a debater. If anyone who's heard of Darth Dawkins, he's a extremely old school.
We love Darth Dawkins. We love Darth Dawkins won every debate he's ever had. We love Darth Dawkins.
Like
no.
This is Darth Dawkins, Josiah. This is his evil.
I define
twin.
God as the absolute, uncontingent.
So base.
Base. Darth Dawkins
base.
He's an extremely old school, like Discord debater. He's like Ask Yourself before Ask Yourself was himself, right? It's like he's been debating the same topic, which is basically, does God exist? You know, is there a God? Is there a Christian God? And he's been debating that same topic on the internet. I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but like
20 years.
15 years or something. Like he's been an online internet debate. He doesn't have a channel. It's such a bizarre thing because he doesn't have a channel. He doesn't live stream. He's only known as like a guy who debates on Discord, and he's been doing it for like 15 years. And
don't compare him to Ask Yourself. Come on, have some
no, I'm not saying I'm not. No, but Ask Yourself is similar because
Darth Dawkins, Moggs, Ask Yourself
doesn't. It's like Ask Yourself. Ask Yourself is like a vegan and like morality debater online, and I understand Ask Yourself to not really create much sort of content. He really more so. Yeah, he really more so is like known as a debater, not really a content creator. And so similarly, Darth Dawkins is that, but for presuppositionalism. And yeah, for those that don't know, presuppositionalism is like the belief that essentially you can
presuppose God.
You can essentially presuppose that God exists, and then that's just fine. That's all the justification you need.
How do they logically? So how do they presuppose that like the Christian God is the correct God? Like how do they use the laws of logic to get there?
They are triune. There's like a specific set of criteria.
My experience is that they will say that that God has revealed Himself to them.
Yeah.
And of course, you'll ask, well, how do you know that you can trust your sense data? Like maybe it's been revealed to me that your God isn't real.
Right.
And it's like Muslim God or whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll just say, oh, well, yeah, but God has revealed Himself to me. Right. And it's like, that's how I know. Right. Like and that's it. Like it's really that simple. You really don't find this argument anywhere outside of the debate space in my experience. Like no, like Christian philosopher thinks this, right?
It's just dumb, right? Because
they are.
At all, like fundamentally every single belief system at a core level is circular. Like it always is, right? This is like what Agrippa's trilemma is. So it's like a lot of presuppositionalists think that they've solved it.
The only Agrippa's dilemma I know about is can Agrippa get some good game material? What's the parry joke? I'm quite a parry joke.
You guys know what Agrippa's trilemma is? I'm saying this word over and over.
I do, but the others don't. So why don't you explain it for them?
That's true. That's true.
So in the same way, I definitely didn't mean to say karmi. I meant to say karni. It's basically like three fallacies that all belief systems fall into. Dogmatism, which is essentially believing something regardless of evidence. That's what presuppositionalists fall to. Infinite regression, which is like, have you guys ever heard the frame like turtles all the way down?
Mm-hmm.
Darth Dawkins just sits in the politics owning college students and he makes a fortune at his real job handcrafting dentures. No joke. W. Geezer.
Which one's the guy who had lead paint poisoning or whatever? Was that Darth Dawkins or Mr. Batman? Or was that a different one?
Yeah, so it's like there's just a turtle on the bigger back of a different turtle. It's like most like foundationalists, most science believers fail the infinite regression.
Mold, that was it. That was it.
And it's like before the Big Bang, where the dust come from that made the big, and then the final one is circular logic, right? It's just like where the A equals B and B equals A and A equals B, and they like self-define each other. And all belief systems fail this. All of them, which is why when presuppositionalists are like, you're based on nothing, and I'm based on something. It's like, no, we're all just being circular because you have to. You just accept it at some point. Like that's just we all moved on from this because it's stupid and boring to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, and strictly speaking, like the not God theory is more parsimonious, right? Like there's a reason to think that, if you're gonna just presuppose,
don't make up words.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm sorry. Parsimonious just means simple. It's like the shorter theory. Look, that's what the philosophers use. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, but
don't apologize for your loquaciousness.
You're smart, okay? Fine.
Yeah. No, but never apologize for your loquaciousness, Econoboi.
Yeah, I was debating a guy. No, I was debating a guy a while ago who said, he's like, well, God was revealed to me, and I trust my senses because God has told me to trust my senses. And it's like, well, that's circular. And what he said to me was, it's okay to be circular if it refers to God. But other than that, it's never okay to be circular. And it's like, but that's just, again, you're just assuming that that's true. I would say, look, a lot of my theories are circular. Like, if you ask me,
utilitarianism is circular, right?
Yeah.
I believe
like, why don't you?
The world? Why? Because I think it's good to do. Why do you think it's good?
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't
My
refer
God
to
demands
God,
blood
right?
sacrifice every night, so I don't know how to square that with like
that's crazy.
cultural norms, but God
and the
wants
reason
what he
I
wants.
say when I say Christian philosophers don't think this, I'm just saying that, you know, you won't find a lot of actual Christian academic, like historian philosophers, like theology people, like people in the Catholic Church, like you know, all those cardinals. Well, like if you go to the Catholic Church, like the cardinals who spent their whole fucking entire lives like studying Catholic theology, none of them are presupposition. Like this is a very bizarre belief, even amongst like very, very devout people who studied this.
That erudite is against things being circular when she's inching towards it herself after every day and Big Mac.
No, did you not listen to her, Tetris? She just said that everything is circular eventually. Okay, so she's accepted it.
Life.
Yeah.
It's
the alternative is just faith. It's just acknowledging that it's faith, or
it's dogmatism. Like the answer to presuppositionalism is dogmatism. The answer to like foundationalism is infinite regression. It's all circular all the way through, which is why it's stupid. It's stupid to talk about, and I hate it. I hate it when Christians are like, "We solve it." I'm like, "No, we don't. We just have dogmatism. We just like God exists because God does exist, and I believe that He exists." And it's like that's also stupid sounding. Just like all foundational beliefs are stupid sounding.
So do you get rattled like when the guy started just hitting you with ad homs right away?
Gamer man thinking he's high IQ with this joke in chat right now. It's bad to use circular logic because circular logic is bad. Wow, you're a funny guy. What a funny guy.
It's something that you have to like acclimate to, or do you like that fight? Like, how do you respond like emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with like, do you know what Y50 is? It's a I don't know, it's a thing in America. Okay, in Alberta, Y50 is like most violent youth under 50, most top 50 violent youth. That was the group that I typically worked with in addictions and like rehab and stuff. So angry men and calling me names, I don't really care. To be honest, the only thing I get nervous about is like not presenting my side well, like doing a disservice to, in this case, feminism, even though I don't.
Why lie and say you don't care when anyone says anything about it? You obviously care when people are mean to you.
Feminism at all, but like basically making feminism look stupid. That's like the main thing I get nervous about. But I always get really nervous before debates. But like angry men don't make me upset. Honestly, like bad faithness, especially when it's like, I know that you're being bad faith, makes me really annoyed, and I need to like chill. I need to...
Don't be stupid when you're talking to me. You know, don't be a smart aleck like Jordan Peterson would say.
Yeah, he at one point he said, I was like, in a conversation, you grant norms, particularly when you agree on them, so you can talk about something. And he goes, it's a debate. Even if we agreed on norms, I would never grant them because that would be a tactical disadvantage. And I'm like, that is definitionally bad faith. You're saying, even if we agree that the sky is blue, you're going to make me prove it to you so you can win. Like, what? Like, okay, I guess we're going to talk about nothing the whole time, which is what happened. It's very annoying. Yeah.
How do you feel sort of broadly about the politics space in terms of how inviting it is to women? Like, have you noticed a change over the last like 8 years? Is it better or worse?
Yeah, dude, the bad faith shit is like nightmarish.
I come to the help field, which is very warm to women. The space, there's a lot of, it's tough. I'm very used to conservative sexism because I grew up fundamentalist Christian. Liberal sexism is a new one for me. So actually, I notice liberal sexism more.
Hold on.
We're
we
sick
can't
of women.
That's
ridiculous. Liberals are sick of women.
So
do you mean to say liberal?
Is it better than 8 years? I don't know. I've been doing this for 3 years.
Giselle Ducati convinced me earlier. Women should not know about politics. Women, it's a pro. If you're a woman and you know about politics, something's gone wrong. Okay, fundamentally, it's okay if you want to learn about it. I don't think you should be stopped. But something has gone wrong in your life if you as a woman know about politics.
It's like, and also it's probably worth saying, right? Like, I debate sociocultural stuff with a lot of like psychology and philosophy as like the way that I engage in these things. I don't really like you guys like listing off like, oh yeah, this politician. Blah, 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 blah,
more women vote than men. Listen, okay, vote. More women vote that you some kind of electoral cuck. Okay, voting doesn't matter that much. Okay.
So out of my wheelhouse. I don't know.
That's not what we sound like.
How Pisco could just like riddle off like 8 different court case laws and all these things. I'm like, that is not my wheelhouse.
We try to sound far more parsimonious.
Your guys' chat made me believe that maybe the space isn't very warm, at least to people who don't know things. I don't know if it's a woman thing though. It's hard.
They have an anti-Canadian bias, which is unacceptable. We're working on it, which is another
We've got some snarkers. We've definitely got snarkers.
Future American bias.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know. I haven't been in it for a long time.
What was Hutch just saying?
We're working on it, which is another
We've
reason
got
why
some
you're here.
snarkers. We've definitely got like snarkers.
Future American bias.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know. I haven't been in it for a long time. There's definitely
what is even talking about?
More sexism here that I've experienced. Like, I'll be in meetings and my husband will be like, "Why are they talking to you like that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's just really annoying." And he's like, "They would literally never talk to me like that." So I don't know. It's different than the help field, that's for sure.
So remind me, on your Tim Pool debate, it's a 1v1. Who are you debating again?
It's not even a debate. Like, I was like, is this a debate? I gave him a list of topics for us to debate on, and American Nacho's like, let's just...
That's who it was.
American Nacho, yeah. So we're discussing why men are disillusioned with the left. And I'm like, is there going to be a debate here? Probably. They're probably all going to say some like crazy shit. But I'm sure I'll agree on a lot of things. Like, it's like, yeah, we don't really care about men's issues. I don't know if you guys heard. Do you guys know what the APA is?
He's trying to look like Emery.
Yeah. They just finally released a stanza specifically.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not convinced on that. Right, you know, I've got to say, recently, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, just being around online, I've noticed a significant uptick in the quantity and availability of Emery deepfakes. Has anyone seen this? Have we seen this? Have we been aware of this? Of this change? I haven't seen like deepfakes of other celebrities really. I've never like looked for AI stuff because I just disregard AI shit. But I have seen Emery just out in the wild. Let's see that browsing history. This is a phenomenon I'm noticing. So for the Kuihman uses the 2 OTK/Twitch B threads. I would never disclose what threads I use. But I have noticed out in the wild more. I've noticed Emery. Never noticed it with other celebrities. Which just confirms to me that that is why people are watching her.
About like the intersections of masculinity in men and how you need to think about it in your therapy. And it's like, it's probably not good.
She was promised to me 4,000 years ago, okay? Emery's hand in marriage was promised to me 4,000 years ago, and if I have to use artificial intelligence to make that promise come true, then so be it. That's how it'll be.
We're like thinking about like men are incarcerated more. Why does that matter? But yeah, I don't know what it'll be. We'll see. It'll be probably a slight, like a 1.5 V1 something.
Well, what do you think, for example, like the Democratic Party can do? Because obviously we bled a lot of like, especially young men. Like what do you think are some tangible steps that Democrats could take tomorrow if they wanted to address that issue?
So I went to DC to talk to Democrats about this. And I don't know how Democrats can start caring about men until they stop hating young men, right? Dude. So like, I was texting the group the other day and I sent them. Do you guys know George Droid, the meme?
Dude, what is she about to fucking say, dude?
What do you think are some tangible steps that Democrats could take tomorrow if they wanted to address that issue?
So I went to DC to talk to Democrats about this, and I don't know how Democrats can start caring about men until they stop hating young men, right? So like, I was texting the group the other day and I sent them. Do you guys know George Droid, the meme?
No. Yes.
Okay, yeah. And I was like,
I do know the meme.
Okay, George Droid is just George Floyd as a cyborg, and then they just put a bunch of like it's crazy. It's very.
Oh, wow. It's like a racist. It's pretty racist.
It's super racist, and I'm like, this is what a lot of young men think is funny. You need to understand. You don't have to like it. I don't like it, but you need to understand like what's going on here. You need to like understand it. You need to be able to code switch. You need to know things like.
She's, you know, I'm here to shit on erudite endlessly. Truly. She's got a fine point here. This is a totally reasonable point. The thing is, Democrats probably already know this. She's just saying something. The issue is, it's like, this is a very 2016 point. It's a very 2016 point. It's like meme magic got Trump elected. How do we have left-wing meme magic? It's like that basically. It's quite cringe. But it's like that basically, right? It's just kind of like outdated. It's kind of surface level. Like, I don't know what Democrats can really do with that. To some extent, she puts men in a monolith. It's a very shallow understanding. So very not like other girls' idea of men. Well, I mean, yeah, she said that. She said she likes men or whatever because she didn't feel like a girl growing up or some shit. She liked anime. I liked anime. I'm not like the other girls. Okay.
Wait, so are you a dark woke advocate?
Yeah, I think so. Dark woke being like edgy, like
yeah,
edgy and woke. Yeah, I think so. I think the left is very soy, genuinely, and I think a lot of young men have whether we agree with it or not, we've still socialized young men to believe that they should be masculine men who are heroes, right? Like most men grow up wanting to be action figures and soldiers and shit.
I know, I've seen Liquid Sonic uploaded. We might watch it tomorrow. I don't want to like cut into his views or anything.
And like the left has made a lot of space for men who aren't that way, which is good, to be clear. I think that that's really good. But the issue is we haven't made a lot of space or answers for the men who want to be.
Yeah, but you said Democrats hate young men, Kyle. I mean, that's an exaggeration, right? I mean, do they really?
Pisco, my hero. Pisco, my hero. Dude, every time. We love Pisco. We back Pisco.
You hate young men? What's the evidence for that?
I think the fact that like they can't even begin to talk about issues that directly affect young men without like caveating it with like 8 million caveats and then also ending it with being like, but women are struggling too. And it's like you wouldn't do that with any other group, like ever.
I feel like oftentimes the needs of young men I feel like are overstated. And I do agree that there's a failure to appeal to young men. I think that's true for sure. But this like lack of go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Dude, Pisco is just so on the money there. Holy fuck. It is not about the needs, it is about appealing. There are needs that should be met, that probably our policies need to be addressed. Like, obviously, we wouldn't, if there was a parity, like, we're in a situation now where women outnumber men in college, right? When men outnumbered women in college, everyone was like, we got to get more women in college. We got to get more women in college. But it doesn't feel like we're ever going to hit that point with men where people turn around and go, oh, maybe we need to get more men in college. Like, why is that not the talking point now? Why is it still about women in STEM? If you're still yapping about women in STEM in 2025, you're a fucking retard. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. They didn't say that about women for like 500 years. I mean, while that's fair enough, you should, like, once we've achieved the principle, you would hope it goes both ways. But it seems like we just allow it to slide in one direction. It's still because STEM is the only area of uni education where men still outnumber women. Well, yeah, exactly. But it's like you've got to either stop. Okay, you keep bitching about women in STEM, keep doing that. But then you have to talk about the other side of it too, right? You have to talk about men in humanities. You have to talk about men in social studies. No one should be in STEM. They're Chinese men. They're not the same thing. Dude.
You can finish.
No, you go.
I was going to say, if you look at young men and the stats that they have, I don't know if you know much about intergenerational research, but typically when a group has gone through intergenerational trauma, some of the sequelae markers of that is going to be high levels of suicide, high levels of addiction, and high levels of like homelessness and achieving lesser education. And increasingly, we are seeing young men occupy these stats at a disproportionate level than they have in the past, which I think is really concerning. And I think when you talk about this on the Democrat side, they just want to couch it in a lot of caveated language. And it's just like, there are issues that women are facing, unquestionably. I have been debating pro-feminist positions for the last like month and a half, right? I'm not denying any of that. But when we talk about young women's issues, we don't need to caveat by being like, well, yeah, but like young men are dying at a higher rate from suicide. We don't.
Would you say Democrats? Would you say Democrats hate women? I mean, there's you notice that there's a lot of like, yeah. So I guess.
I think they respect men. I do.
But we already talked about that.
Yeah, I don't think they respect men.
I agree. I agree. There's probably like some people like the party isn't doing enough maybe to curry the favor of young men, and I do agree probably young men face particular issues.
I think they dislike young men.
But to characterize it hatred.
Well, dislike, right?
That's a strong word.
But yeah, but hatred is just like they dislike it, right? I think.
Oh, but I don't.
Democrats dislike young men. Instead of just, why doesn't she just say? What it would be so easy here. Just say to Pisco, say to him, okay, yeah, I don't think that all Democrats hate young men, or even that Democrats hate young men as an institution. My point in saying Democrats hate young men is that there's a general air of an apathy towards appealing to or understanding men. You could say that. That would be a better way to say it. There's a general sort of sense of apathy towards the appealing to or understanding young men. That's maybe like a more reasonable way of saying it. Saying Democrats hate young men. It's like, not only is it vapid, but it's also like obviously absurd on the face of it. Or what do you even mean by that? What do you even mean by that?
In a working class area with a bunch of young men, they would not like them because they're not very likable people. I don't like them very much, right? I just have high empathy for them, right? They're going to be rude. They're going to be probably self-pitying. There's going to be a whole bunch of behaviors we don't like, but also they're going to have like some interest in some level of like violence. They'll probably think that like certain things that we think are offensive are funny. There's going to be a whole bunch of ways that they exist and perform that we won't like. Just
sure, but they're not going out of the way. They're not. Do you feel? I guess I'll ask this as a question as opposed to a statement, since I'm not as well steeped in the research as you are. But do you feel that the Democratic Party is actively going out of its way to antagonize young men, or that it's more of this kind of neglect, lack of concern?
So I think there's a lot of.
So I'll give you the comparison. Sorry for interrupting. But like comparison is a lot of people will think that Republicans.
What did I just say? Yeah, there's a general sense of apathy towards dude. Pisco is just. I'm possessing Pisco's body right now. I'm temporally possessing Pisco's body, sending my spirit back in time, in a Steins Gate fashion, to do this debate against the erudite for me right.
Go out of their way to fuck with women, and that's where they get the whole meme of like Republicans hate women. Is because they go out of their way to antagonize
Pisco's going fucking bananas right now. Okay, he's chimping the fuck out.
Do you see that parallel in young men for the Democrats? I guess I'll ask you.
You might even say he's on a.
It's more systemic than it is systematic, right? I don't think that like Democrats are like being like, man, how can we fuck young men over this year? Like, so excited. Where are the white ones at? Like, go get them, boys. Go Me Too them or something. I don't think that that's happening. I think what's happened, though, is a cultural shift in preference for things that are not traditionally masculine for a bunch of reasons, a lot of them good reasons.
Pisco does have a very silverback demeanor to him, doesn't he?
I'm not opposed to the
ways
look at of feminism.
Look at him. It's very silverback demeanor.
In the state of that, we haven't really answered the question of masculinity. We haven't created a script that's okay with it.
You see what I mean,
and we've
right?
kind of denied some things that seem to consistently emerge within masculinity that we just don't like and don't want to have an answer to, like aggression. We don't really want to talk and think about it when it is just kind of a more emergent masculine thing that can be honed in good ways, like assertiveness, right? And protectiveness, and can be honed in bad ways like crime and violence and abuse. And I think that there's this general distaste towards masculine things in the left that doesn't exist towards like feminine things. I think generally feminine things are viewed as like neutral. Some of them are positive. And the things that are masculine that the left likes, we say that's not masculine. We just kind of like leave it as like agendered, but then also get really mad at women on the left when they act in those more masculine traditional ways.
Isn't it a problem of efficiency at the end of the day? Like Pisco, like when we look at the rate of young men that moved away from Democrats, would you say that is like, would you say that represents a failure of the Democrats on some level?
I think it might. I want to cabin this, and I do want to hear your take on it, Hutch, by saying I think that some of the reason that, for example, Trump appeals to young men are things we don't want to emulate. Right? There are some tendencies among Trump, the bravado, the unwilling to stand up, the kind of brashness that, I can see why that appeals to young men more. And I can see that there's a need for Democrats to appeal to young men. But I don't want to emulate some of the worst characteristics there that might appeal to young men, namely the kind of like Trump, fuck it all, burn it all down, fuck them all to death attitude. I think that if appealing to young men means becoming more Trump-like. And I'm not saying that that's what Kyla is suggesting, and maybe Kyla has a more nuanced way or a targeted way to deal with some of those issues from the Democrats' perspective. But I'm concerned about turning our party into what appeals to young men, because or singularly focusing on a way that sacrifices the policy, because I know that oftentimes what appeals to young men is fucked up. But I'll let you sorry, take that wherever you want to go, Hutch.
No, I don't presume to. I mean, I feel like Kyla, you're probably way more qualified to get into like incentive structures because I think it's a question of like, do you want to emulate Trump, or do you want to present like a better alternative, like a more appealing alternative? And I think that's a really difficult question to answer. I don't know what the answer to that question. I'm fucking 41 years old. I never leave my apartment. I don't plan to have my finger on the pulse of the culture. But yeah, I'm curious what you think, Kyla, in terms of like specific strategy.
Okay, so let's go really like specific and granular. Okay, let's think about the campaigns that the Democrats have done to try to reach young men. Are you familiar with any of them? Like, there's the Unfuck America tour. There's been a bunch of different kind of.
Yeah, you only have that example, and the reason you have that example is because Destiny covered it and then tried to join it. You only have that one example of a tour, and I know exactly why you have that example, and it's just so fucking annoying.
Program win the fight. There's been a bunch of these different things to try to appeal to young men. And who are the content creators that they typically bring out for these events? Do you have
Twinks.
The dean.
Yeah. Well, not just twinks.
He says behind the pride flag.
It's fine in and of itself. He's a handsome.
Look, the pride flag's there, but I'm not a twink, to be fair. Okay.
No, you're an otter.
No,
right?
You are something much worse, Econoboi. You are something much less appealing. Trust me.
More otterish and bearish, personally. Yeah. I'm sorry. Anyway, go on, Kyla.
Yeah. The real issue here is who's the audience that listens to Dean Withers? This is not fucking men.
Dude, she's stealing my talking points. She's stealing my talking points. She's stolen this from me. Credit me. Credit me. What are you doing?
Has at least a 70% female audience.
Credit me.
Promising you that. Yes.
Oh, I'm sure that's right.
In fact, I can't tell you that I know, but I know with strong belief that it is upwards of 65%. That is.
I think you're right.
Just shocked if that was true.
I think you're right.
You are a plagiarist.
Absolutely right.
She's repeating what I'm saying, and they're all patting on the back for it.
Who
keeps hiring these people. Yeah, sorry.
Are there people? No, I was just gonna say on that score, are there people in this space?
I'm jumping out.
Content creators that have, you know, a 50-50 audience or a male-leaning audience that might be like good advocates.
Hutch, what's your audience breakdown, if I can ask?
Probably like 90% guys. Probably.
Yeah, me too. I'm about 85% men. Econoboi, Pisco. Pisco, do you know what your gender breakdown is?
It's probably like 93, 94.
Same thing, like 90+%. And then of the, like, you know, to be honest, like of the women in my audience, a really large minority of them are trans women, right? So, you know, and that seems to be pretty consistent with a lot of the people in the online politics space that, like if you go to Discords, for instance, you know, of all the women in my Discord, a very disproportionate number of them
I just checked. I actually have an 84% male ratio. So I'm technically beating erudite right now on this.
Are trans women for one reason or another. So.
Right, because I think this is a socialization process. I've talked about this with a lot of trans women. When girls are socialized, there still is this energy. There's been a lot of great.
We love women. We love women.
Keep Sweet is still
they're all trans, and every single one of them was born male.
The thing. Even on the left, right? This is why when a pretty woman is mean to a man, even if he's a liberal man, he might make it his entire fucking life to destroy her by calling her colleges, right? That's been my life. Who hates me the most? Leftist men. Leftist men are the most aggressive men, bar none. They're the most misogynistic towards me. No question about it, right? And so it's really important when we look at the Dean Withers, because I don't have a problem with Dean Withers, and we look at the Hutches, and we go, what's different here? Why do young men want to watch Hutch and don't want to watch Dean Withers? And I want to be clear. I'm going to talk about masculinity.
Young men are not watching Hutch. I would hazard a guess that most of Hutch's audience in their 30s.
femininity. I'm not commenting on it being good or bad. I think cultures have femininities and masculinities that emerge. And what's important is to be honest about what our masculinity is and how we work within that. Because the Democrat answer has been, I don't like it, let's just change it. Rather than saying, we'll meet you where you are, here are some better alternatives. Here's a really good example. When you look at young children, there's two ways that they will manage their distress. There's internalizing and externalizing expressions. This is something that we actually use as a way to measure like mental functioning in young children. I'm sure you can guess it, between young boys and young girls, and I'm not saying why, I don't care why, to be honest. Between young boys and young girls, who do you think internalizes more and who externalizes more?
The guys are obviously going to externalize more by a huge margin.
Obviously, right? They're going to throw trucks, they're going to scream, they're going to have a stupid fucking...
Most Kuihman viewers are stable and mature men in their late 30s with an intact family and a good job, I heard. Okay, Jimberly. Okay, Jimberly.
Tantrum. Whereas a girl is going to cry, right? They knock over their toy set. The boy might kick it over and start throwing
we get it, Jimberly. You spend a lot of time with your kids while you're on your phone, sending absurd rape threats and derisive comments about minorities to a streamer 15 years just your junior.
Because it might like turn on his sister because maybe she's the one that helped knock it over. The girl's going to cry 60% of the time, maybe 70% of the time. It's not all men, not all girls, but this is generally a thing that we see. What do we do to the young externalizing boy? We say, go to your room. You're in trouble. It's bad. Your distress is bad. You're going to be alone. Deal with it by yourself. And then the young boy turns 20, and
we love him for it, folks. We love Jimberly, don't we, folks?
Skills. Do you know how you teach children to regulate? You co-regulate. So the young girl cries, you put her up against your chest, her heart feels your heart, she feels your diaphragm expanding. It's all very parasympathetic. It's all very body up shit. This is how we build our brains for this stuff. And we've been building boys' brains to be dysfunctional at this, right? This is just unquestionable. And then all we do is we tell young men, go get therapy. Well, the third wave of therapy, and especially the fourth wave of therapy, is a very internalized, focused type of therapy. It's all talking about it and expressing your feelings. And we know that young incels go to therapy more than the average population member, right? They go more than Gen Pop. They go, I think, 20% more often. So incels are going to therapy more than everyone else. And they have a 10% success rate. Whereas Gen Pop has an 80% success rate, right? And so then we look at this and we go, and this is what psychology is doing, is going, we're fucking up. And one of the answers is we probably need to find ways to do therapy in an externalizing way, right? So there's like really stupid sounding programs where like you go outside and like
assuming the facts are true, this doesn't sound like that offensive. You guys are kind of like freaking out about this. This is one of those erudite takes I don't think is like that bad. This feels like pretty surface level, really. Well, she's not saying that real incels like need therapy. It's like she's saying that current therapy doesn't work for incels. Obviously, what they're doing isn't working. Just going and talking to someone about your feelings. Gen Pop, she speaks like she's gonna turn her incel ranch into a prison. Therapy is gay and it's mental rape and it sucks. Absolutely, that's how incels feel about it, and it's true. They're right. It's mental rape, you know. It's inhumane. Therapy's like literally inhumane. Should be illegal. What sort of, like, seriously, what is someone who idolizes Patrick Bateman gonna get out of therapy? They want to be like that.
Your feelings. I'm not even joking. And you might be like, that's stupid. I don't give a fuck if it works. I don't give a, I'm pretty pragmatic, right? And so when you look at Democrats and when they're looking at young men, what they're offering them is you're bad because you're externalizing, which is true. They are externalizing toxically. I'll just totally grant you. Being racist and yelling at women and telling them that they're sluts and whores through your whatever chat is all bad ways to manage the fact that you feel rejected, you feel lonely, and you feel like you don't own up because you're a virgin at 21. That's not the right way to handle it, but the left says you're despicable, and that's it, right? And so it's like, yeah, does the left hate young men? Not in like, they would never say it. They'd be like, of course we love young men, but functionally, they're not doing anything. They offer young men nothing. And the reality is that most of these consultants come to me and they go, how do we convince young men that we care about them? And I'm like, care about them. What do you mean? Just care about them. And the reality is that they're doing the same thing that they've been doing to the Black community, which is that they go, how do we convince Black people that we care about them? And it's like, I don't know, care about them, pass policies that help them. That's what you should do. But they don't want to do this, right? And the fact that they're like performing in this way is gross. And so young men.
Do you think it's policy? So can you give me some thoughts on this? And thank you for that take.
Yeah, sorry for going off on my soapbox.
No. I appreciate that. Because I saw in my chat people like, guys, this is, or to me, because I was kind of being a little bit like, what are we talking about? How to in what ways can we improve? Some people say it is a policy thing. What are the policies that the young men are crying out for? What policies can the Democrats put in place that will?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Daily muted moment. I'm a retard. Yes, we get it, guys. Move on now. We get it. Don't fill the whole fucking chat for 5 minutes. I was saying I love Pisco, okay? I love Pisco. I love this guy. This guy's awesome. Even though he totally rat-fucked me in that one debate that one time about erudite, where he said that letter said something that it didn't say. And then we checked it afterwards, and it didn't quite say what he said, and it was still ambiguous. Even though he totally rat-fucked me in that one debate, we love Pisco. This guy's awesome. This guy just has the best questions. He's like, so, just to the point, just like, but what are you actually fucking saying? What are you actually saying right now? It was ages ago when J-Stuck first started streaming. But basically there was like the key piece of evidence in that was supposed to debunk Sunday's claims of erudite being fraudulent or whatever, was this letter that erudite got after asking her uni or something for it. I can't remember where it was from exactly. I might get the details wrong here, so don't take this as 100%. Basically, the letter said something to the effect of, if you work a job with this title, you can have this title. And it was unclear whether erudite worked a job with that title or had ever worked a job with that title, I believe. And Pisco presented it to me as... No, I think it said... It was... I literally can't remember where the disagreement was. I would have to go look at the letter again. But basically, it was something to the effect of... It was basically like this. I'm going to say what I think it was, but I think this is wrong also. Whoever... You can hold this title, you can use this title, if you have a job with this title. And Pisco told me, I think, that the letter said, you can have this title if you hold a job with this title, or you've ever held a job with this title. And there was like the second part that he added, or that he changed slightly, that actually made it ambiguous. And I was like, well, dude, you totally railroaded that when it didn't actually say that. It was very annoying. But anyway, this is like ages ago now. Okay, we love Pisco. We love Pisco.
Substantively appeal to the young men. You know, I kind of think in a similar vein to Jessiah with respect to like the Teamsters. Is it going to be a case of, well, we're doing these policies that will benefit young men, but we're not going to see the fruits of it? But so what do you see as kind of some actual substantive things that the Democrats, if they had the power to, could pass to improve, you know, the material conditions of the lives of the young men?
We codify arranged marriages, obviously.
Yeah,
would be a good start.
yeah, forced girlfriends. No, I think it's a good question. At a policy level, I don't know if I have a granular policy. What I would say is like what political institutions can do though is things like grants for NGOs and like nonprofits, right? So typically male-oriented nonprofit groups are villainized in social media as being hateful to women. Sometimes they are. Usually they're not. Usually they're just being like, how to be a man, like healthier alternatives to masculinity. You should fund these, which by the way, they don't, and they don't want to. As somebody who has been talking to funders who want to specifically target young men, I will tell you right now, unquestionably, they're like, well, we want to target young men. And I'm like, you should support these content creators. And they're like, yeah, but they say retard. And I'm like, yeah, they do.
Support Destiny. You should give Destiny some money.
Wait, so we're talking about, wait, can I pause real quick? So are we talking about content creators or NGOs? And are we talking about funding NGOs or initiatives that are specifically targeted to
Destiny?
young men?
Isn't the guy a revenge pornographer or something?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about, okay, got it. Because I was going to say, well, look at what Trump is doing, right? Trump is cutting funding for all different types of things. And no one seems to give a fuck in terms of that. Like, you know, who cares? How does it affect them?
At a policy level of like working class stuff, there's probably some things like certain rights that probably men could use to help bolster them in like working class roles. There might be some movement for like equal reproductive rights. So essentially like financial abortions, like where men can opt out of children more or less. I don't think there'll be any steam for that. But that would be giving equal reproductive, well, it wouldn't because women don't have abortion rights. But if you gave women abortion rights, this might be something that could come along with it that men would support. So there's like certain policies I'd be open to. But honestly, at this point, all I want is for our rhetoric to change and for like our acceptance of like NGOs and supports and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems to me that the political remedy is maybe less.
I didn't retain a single thing she just said there. I was not paying any attention.
Remedy, like, I don't know,
financial abortion. Sorry, I should actually listen. She was giving suggestions of policies. So financial abortion is the idea of basically giving men reproductive rights and allowing them to opt out of a pregnancy in a similar way to a woman having an abortion, except you pay like a lump sum, a bunch of money, to get out of the pregnancy. So you don't have to pay child support or anything. You have to have any obligations. Now the problem is that if you do that, then the burden for that kid's life goes onto the state. So it will never happen because it's just too. It would be too financially burdensome. So it's like it would never work. It's stupid. It's kind of stupid. It's like I agree with the principle. Like I do think there is something to be said about the way that, you know, women can opt out of a pregnancy unilaterally, but you're on the hook for it for 18 years and you don't really get a say in it. Like, you can't you can have a discussion about it, but ultimately it's the abortion's on the woman. I understand the point there. I agree with the point there, but it would never, it's like impossible. It's like retarded.
Like, you know, who cares? How does it affect them?
At a policy level of like working class stuff, there's probably some things like certain rights that probably men could use to help bolster them in like working class roles. There might be some movement for like equal reproductive rights. So essentially like financial abortions, like where men can opt out of children more or less. I don't think there'll be any steam for that. But that would be giving equal reproductive, well, it wouldn't because women don't have abortion rights. But if you gave women abortion rights, this might be something that could come along with it that men would support. So there's like certain policies I'd be open to. But honestly, at this point, all I want is for our rhetoric to change and for like our acceptance of like NGOs and supports and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems to me that the political remedy is maybe less important than the cultural remedy. Like, I don't know about like, I don't know how much of this is a policy. I don't know how many men move towards Trump because they liked his policies. Like, I feel like a lot of them move towards Trump because he sort of presented to them a model of masculinity that for whatever reason was appealing to them. I mean, when I was 10, maybe I would have thought that Trump was appealing, right? Like,
that's one that I was keeping in the chamber to ask Kyla. So this is actually a really good springboard here. So based on, you know, your background in psychology and also your involvement with politics in the past couple of years, what's the appeal of Trump? Because I think it would be, you may not agree with this, but I think just kind of like surveying the gender, you know, disparity among, you know, liberals versus, you know, conservatives, and seeing the Trump presentation of masculinity, a lot of people would interpret that as cruelty and a license towards cruelty. And so how would you advise liberals to try to provide a counterweight to that? Should we be crueler? Should there be, is it just edginess without the cruelty? Because that's where I'm kind of confused about, like, what is it that Trump offers? And what would you like to see Democrats emulate?
So I think you're hitting on something really important, which is that part of what Trump offers is something we don't want to emulate, because I think we all agree that it's bad. We don't want that. So what we have to do is like distill it a little bit further down and be like, are there some principles here we can grab and kind of do away with all the bullshit on top? So my thought would be things like make people, and men particularly, a little bit more cancel proof, right? We need to be probably a little bit more cautious on the left about how we treat people who are
Dude. 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 You can't make it up, man. You cannot make this shit up. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, unless it's a song. Unless it's a song. Just Destiny. Cancel proof, but just Destiny, okay? Just let him rape, okay? Some men just want to violate consent. Boys will be boys, okay? Boys will be boys. We just got to accept some men gonna I don't even like fundamentally I get there is like a point here maybe, but it's just so obvious where the motivation is coming from. Like, yeah, okay, Harry Sisson. Like, should Harry Sisson be like broadly cancelled? No. But Destiny should. Destiny actually should. And you're saying it because of Destiny. Like,
or on like the edges and fringes of what we think is like socially polite society. Because I think particularly a lot of young, low-income working class men don't fuck with like polite society because they can't even access it, right? They don't even know how to code switch into it. And I think on the left, there really is this expectation that you can engage in that, and a lot of young men just can't, right? And so I don't know if I'm answering your question directly. I'm realizing I'm yapping and maybe not answering. Am I answering your question?
Well, if I could critique that a little bit, I feel like cancel culture is something that is described as like a left-wing phenomenon. I just feel like I totally reject that. Like I feel like both sides equally. It's
whoever's in power phenomenon is what it is. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Because the right's doing it now.
Woke women in favor of cancel culture. Kind of disappointing, TBH. So true. So true. So true. When someone attempts to dox you and incite violence against you, you should actually just turn the other cheek. You should actually just say, no, I don't want this person gone. So true.
The right was being like, man, remember when humor could be cool? And now they're like freaking out over like edgy jokes against like politicians that they like, right? So it's like, it's whoever feels like they have the cultural clout is who's canceling. It's just that the left was doing it first on social media because the left owns social media, and social media is so new, especially to the Gen Pop, right? Us interneters are like, not, you know, the internet's been around for a long time. For the Gen Pop, where internet is really infusing into our lives in a pretty like actionable way, it's probably like a decade old, maybe a decade and a half, right? So it's a pretty new thing.
Well, it would be different. If Destiny said it's all banter, I wouldn't have a problem. But the thing is, he said, no, I'm not joking, repeatedly. If Destiny finished it with, but we love Kuihman, it's all banter. We love Kuihman, don't we, folks? There would be no problem. I would be totally fine with him. But he said it wasn't a joke.
Because it was owned by the left. The inventors of it are left. They're a little bit more educated, which is fine. And then they abuse their power by being canceling, but the right's doing the same shit. So when I'm talking about like cancel proofing, what I'm saying is that like, I think it's really dangerous. Like the Dean Parker, Harry Sisson situation. I think when you look at that to me is very concerning, right? I think there's got to be a way where we look at Harry Sisson and we're like, hey, maybe don't be like a fuck boy while also like talking a lot about like feminist stuff. Like it doesn't really make sense. Like I agree that there is criticism for Harry in this. I don't know if it's burn the bridge, destroy him, never work with him ever again. And there has to be lines, because there are some things that people do that you have to say, this, I can't work
it's like,
with this person.
I'm like very fucking upset that it feels like a few of the things I've been saying have slipped into Erudite's points. I am very concerned that she's stolen stuff from me, and that upsets me deeply.
But I think that the lines that we have for that are a little bit too narrow right now, and we need to have honest conversations about what that is, and also be like willing to engage with people at a practical level that we might not agree with every single level. Because if we agree 90% and we disagree 5%, but the 5% makes us not work with each other, I think that's very non-functional. And I think for a lot of young, poor men, they'll never be able, even if they don't get canceled, they'll never be accepted in these like more left-leaning spaces because they can't do the language of it.
Well, you brought up social media, and I think that introduces just a whole new factor into the equation that is just kind of difficult to reckon with. This incentive structure that creators have towards audience capture is, I mean, there is a literal, in many of these cases, extremely lucrative incentive to become audience captured. And in the case of like Dean, did he cut ties with Harry because he literally thought that Harry had done this unforgivable thing, or did he cut ties because he anticipated that his audience would rip him to shreds if he didn't? And so that like creates a cultural problem, because you have these creators that these young people look to as like a model for how to engage in politics, but the whole kind of like system is perverse and a bit corrupted.
And nobody knows that.
So you know, that's a difficult thing to address, really, you know.
So one thing I think is really important when we're talking about canceling that I probably didn't mention is like, we're thinking about content creators because we're all content creators, but people get like canceled from their friend groups in like dominantly left-wing metropolitan.
Show us your gaming keyboard and rainbow gaming mouse, Kuihman. Don't like Erudite have nice peripherals in you. I actually don't have a gaming keyboard. I have just like a normal mechanical keyboard. It's one of the what are they called again? I can't remember the brand. Keychron. It's a Keychron. I think it's like around, I don't know what size it is. It's got a full numpad. Not 100% size though. Like the compact one, but with a full numpad. But I am using a gaming mouse. I've got a Razer, like a Trinity mouse.
In cities all the time. There are tons of people I meet all the time that just become like slightly more lib. They're not leftists anymore. They're just liberal. And they get cut out of friend groups entirely, right? And we're really not seeing this on the right, right? Like I recently went to like a church group and every single woman there was like anti-vax. And I was like, I just want to be clear. I disagree with all of you vehemently, right? Like I was pretty open about it. And they're like, well, that's not very good. But I was cool to hang out. I was cool to still chill. They would still let me have cookies and they still invited me out to like spend time with me after. And so we're not really seeing this in like right friendship groups, but we are seeing this on left friendship groups. And I think the most often victim of this is young men, because I think young men are more rebellious. They're a little bit more antisocial. They're more likely to push on the edges of things. And so it's a hard thing to identify, an even harder thing to legislate on, but I think it's very real, and I think young men are feeling it.
I mean, I think some of the things that you pointed out, like I'll just say that I recognize, like I take your point about that there's been a relative silence. We're starting to see like some progress there. Scott Galloway's making the rounds, and I've heard Congressman Ro Khanna talk about it more, about the issues that young men are experiencing. I take your point there. I also take your point about the permission structure of like edgy jokes in right-wing circles, and there's not really, you know, a symmetry in the liberal or democratic space with that. Like I think these are like concrete examples that I would totally agree with. I also feel like maybe it's because I haven't thought about it like in depth. It's just so much of this is like nebulous. Maybe we just don't have the answer yet. And maybe it goes back to, you know, if everything you said is true about like the general development of young men at a young age, maybe so much of this has to do with that. And it sets them, I don't want to say in an inevitable path, but it's going to skew towards, you know, a Trumpian figure, because these things like manifest in cruelty and you know, misogyny, not in every instance, and so it kind of like it kind of skews in that direction, and so maybe this has to be like a more, you know, expansive project overall. I'm interested to see like moving forward in future campaigns what politicians can do rhetoric wise.
This is all shit about how to capture political audiences, not how to shift voting blocks. I agree with you. But the thing is that doesn't matter to these people, because they think that the way you win elections is by having really awesome streamers.
Because I think the policy is like,
they literally think this is about the voting blocks, right?
Generally speaking, young men and just really people in general benefit under Democratic administrations as a general proposition.
That guy from Ryle's comment section, I've got literally no idea what you're talking about. Wait, which guy from Riles? Hellbent in chat is saying Diorio is manually timing out people mentioning Kuihman and Chud in his chat. Not a great look. Or why is Hellbent leaking? That's not very nice, is it, Hellbent? Really? To say he's manually timing them out? Well, how would anyone know which moderator is timing out people in his chat, Hellbent? How would someone in public know who's doing that? It sounds like you know that because you're a moderator. Yeah, it's 140 IQ Hellbent here, fellas. Okay, crazy stuff happening here. Screw you guys.
And federal level. But then I also look at people like Tim Walz, you know, and Walz came out, Governor Walz came out and effectively said this, like that he was chosen by Vice President Harris's campaign because he could code switch and talk to, you know, these kind of stereotypically conservative people who like to wear flannel and work on trucks and watch and play football. But a lot of people also felt that he coded feminine because he was not like particularly gruff and he was like a really sympathetic, affable guy. And so I'm curious because, you know, especially when you worked with Progressive Victory during that campaign cycle, you're obviously familiar with Governor Walz. Yeah. Let's look at him as a specific example. How did you feel that Walz did in terms of a step towards trying to appeal to young men in a way that's not Trump-like, because Walz is not cruel?
Yeah, I think he was better than we've had before. And just to be clear, I love Tim Walz. Like, I love him so much. I feel like everything I see of him, I don't know if I agree with him at every policy level, but that's not how I gauge good people at this point. He just seems like a good, like he just seems legit, like really legit. I think he really, really cares. And I think there's this sad thing that's happened because I'd be curious how much he would appeal to young men like 10 years ago. Right, because he has like this dad high school vibe that I think a lot of millennial men can map onto and be like, I actually look up to this. I think a lot of 20-year-old men probably wouldn't map onto that very strongly, right? Especially because they've been so far captured towards the right. And so I'm not...
Dr. Demo Man. Who's Dr. Demo Man? Who's this guy? Is his name, isn't it? How do I get to his channel? Yo, why doesn't he just call in?
Eager.
Let me read these. Dude, he's like already running. So what's this guy saying? Is this guy saying... What's he even referring to? Who did I say kill?
Eager to talk to me after giving like some really bad review of one of my streams or some commentary.
Who did I say to kill, Ryle, in this video? Did you watch it, or did you just upload it without even looking? Is Ryle here, or has he left?
Do with being like proximal to Kuihman and stuff when Kuihman was going. That's mostly just proximity. Come on and talk. To negative commentary, and then I was like, "Oh, do you want to talk?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll come on and talk." And then he like told Smaggle that he'd come on and talk. And then he was like, actually, no, I'm not going to come on and talk. And no, I don't want to talk to you at all anymore. And I think that's mostly just proximity to Kuihman and some other people. I think that had nothing to do with me. It just mostly had to do with being like proximal to Kuihman and stuff when Kuihman was going off about some of the things he said.
What did Kuihman do?
Kuihman's all of Nicholas's friends one by one.
Okay, so that's what he's referring to. So this guy, okay, so let's read what this guy's saying. Okay, now I get it. Kuihman isn't killing anyone. He just comes up with the weakest criticisms of people and demands people get browbeaten by him on stream, like he did with Turkey Tom after his Mr. Girl video. He can dish it out and cannot take it. I will literally talk to you right now, bro. He's never had to be on the defense on anything before, but will soon. What do you mean I've never had to be on the defense? Are you on crack? Huh? But will be soon enough. I'm already working on video. So Ryle says, if I arrange a conversation with Kuihman, no promises, will you hold on to your principles? He says, I'm already working on video for my actual channel, not this one, about him. After that, I might talk to him. But I highly doubt he'd want to talk, because it would just be exactly what he did to Turkey Tom. Nitpicking dates and small facts. Sarcastically saying, yeah, I guess you got that one wrong. Insulting him. I literally didn't do that at all. I was like nothing but nice in the Turkey Tom thing. I was like very gently trying to say, you could have known Destiny was a piece of shit. Many of these behaviors were already laid out, but you didn't bother looking at them, and you got things just wrong in the Mr. Girl video. I was very gently laying that out. Some even told me I was being too nice. Exactly. He's saying insulting him, except I won't be defending such sweeping for a PDF like Kuihman was. Okay. It's rather humorous that you say, will you hold on to your principles? Well, I'm not attacking Kuihman for joining debates, but rather being wrong and having a dumb analysis about every topic he covers. Not that he's a debate dodger. He's currently trying to get Muta to debate him and call him one. But he has 200 view streams and no one besides you and me cares about him. So why the heck would Muta, or any stream like the Oreo, debate him? I mean, because I literally know the Oreo, and Muta Hart knows who I am and went out of his way to block me on Twitter. Because he knows who I am. This guy says, wait, she's saying to Raul, are you J-Stalk? I'm not running from anything. I'll talk to him once my video's done. Only if he wants. I don't know why you want me to talk to him. Because all I'll say is I think he is a retard and harasser. What, are you expecting me to have a manifesto ready to go? It wouldn't be good content, just me insulting him and saying, who are you? And probably kicking me, lol. So it doesn't sound like you have a real criticism then. What? Yeah, it just sounds like you don't like me. Which is fine. Not everyone has to like me. I don't try to be liked by everyone, not if you notice that. But this isn't like a very substantive point. He says, I would want like 1,000,000 examples before I confront him live. And the idea behind the video is just to have that in an easily digestible form. Hopefully, eventually, it'll be the first thing that shows up when you look up his name. Smile. Dude, this is cringe. If we were to talk live now, I'd just call him the R word. He'd call me that. I'd call him a harasser, and he'd say, who are you? So I don't think that's fruitful for either of us, lol. So you don't have any thought-out criticism. This is Dr. Demoman74. This is a guy in Rail's comments who says he wants to make a video about me. Like, what? So you just, like, he just hates me. Yeah, like, that's fine. Again, it's fine to hate me. But why pretend like you've got some awesome reason for it? Just, you know, you can come talk to me. Okay.
Opposed to Tim Walz. I don't know if he's like the perfect Democratic answer, but I also think that putting the burden of appealing to young men on like a single individual in the Democratic Party is probably unfair, right?
Wildly unfair, yeah.
Like Tim Walz shouldn't be expected to be the perfect macho man to poll and say Pete Buttigieg shouldn't be either, even though he's badass and cool. And
but no, it's not his main channel, so he's got no videos on there. I don't know if he's ever even made a video, to be honest. Like, I feel like this is just like a commenter just being like, yeah, I'm gonna make a video on this guy one day. It's like, okay.
In a lot of ways, and he's handsome, but he's also gay. So a lot of guys might be like, oh, he's cool, but he's gay, you know? So I think what really has to happen is there has to just be an acceptable cultural shift in the left party to say, what are we willing to play ball with where men are at right now? What are genuine their issues? And how do we code switch to talk to them? I think those are like just really important first steps.
One quick follow-up before Econoboi like jumps in. Just one quick follow-up again, kind of circling back to the cruelty thing or the ruthlessness. What about a Democratic politician? Because I don't think Governor Walz was really this. He had a sense of humor. Like he picked on Elon Musk and stuff like that. So I guess he had some edge to him. But what about an asshole? What about somebody who, like again, and this could be totally reductive, but as somebody who covers like Trump and MAGA a lot, there's just like
Hard Post is still holding the #1 Kuihman hate video spot. Well, it's hard to get better than just straight up calling me a pedophile, right?
I wish Erudite was fatter frown.
Thank you for the stream elements, Dono. Thank you. Huge appreciate. You've kind of like there's a high bar already set.
Like a lot of like naked, open cruelty, and it's increasing with each month. Like they're not even trying to hide it.
What about, I don't think an asshole would have a lot of success in
that's why I'm curious. That's why I'd like to hear her take on that.
Yeah, if there's someone from here spamming Nick's chat, because if they're spamming Nick's chat, I will just ban them here. Because that is like annoying.
About a more liberal asshole who's like for example, because I don't watch a lot of like Dean and Parker when they debate, but like to the extent like the debate space is watched predominantly by young men. What about a liberal?
It's a bunch of alts. Well, Hellbent, I hope you recognize that's your fault. I hope you recognize it because you came into chat and said Nicholas Diorio is manually timing out every alt that mentions Cheddar Kuihman. Someone has heard that, and they have now gone there, recognizing that they're going to be able to frustrate Nick or get under Nick's skin.
Who just insults and bullies their MAGA opponents. Like basically adopts that edge and that cruelty, but directs it specifically at the right. Do you think that could appeal to conservatives?
It could appeal to some, right? The main,
excuse me, I'm not sorry, not appeal to conservatives. I apologize, my brain fog there. To young men. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, who are often conservative, right? It probably would to some degree.
Sure, you know they're not real Kuihman chatters because they're all banned. They're all banned and blocked a long time ago.
Especially if they're emasculating other men. It's just dicey because the Democrat Party doesn't want that. They would be very nervous. Well, the Democrat Party loves watching conservatives get shit on. Like people shitting down.
Like I'll use Pisco. Let's use Pisco as an example because Pisco, especially, and I think the current field is one of the most rhetorically effective and aggressive. Shut the fuck up. I should just take your ass off the stream while I'm glazing you here. But like,
praise me.
This is somebody, you know, who he goes into these spaces and he takes control of the conversation. And his posture is, I'm smarter than you. I'm better versed on the law than you. I can do the Optimus Prime and Transformers 2, and I'll take you all on. And I'm better than you and superior to you in every single way. He doesn't come out and specifically say that.
The Optimus Prime and Transformers 2, I'll take you all on.
Sometimes like he emulates, and I think he backs it up really well. You think more aggressive posture like that could be beneficial instead of kind of the more diplomatic approach that a lot of liberals take? Like Pete Buttigieg, for example, he's obviously a very gifted rhetorician.
2, Rise of the Fallen? Is that what it was called? I can't remember.
An asshole. He's just like really smart and diplomatic.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, I wouldn't be comfortable at this point limiting ourselves. Like, I think that we should allow the people who want to be nice to try, and I think we should allow the people who want to be aggressive to try. And I think we should kind of engage with all of it in between and kind of see what sticks with people. I think Pisco is very effective, right? The issue is I can't do what Pisco does, right? When I debate for I can't be that aggressive because I'm a woman, right? They're going to fucking hate me if I do that. But when I'm like very calm and clear and sensical, then they're like, oh, she's like nice, she's cute, but also like she's kind of smart. So I think what we have to do is say everyone should be trying something, because in psychology and therapy, we have this idea that like not every therapist will save every person, but there is a therapist for every person, right? And what I think happened in the left is that we keep looking for like the magic sauce, like the Joe Rogan of the left. And it's like a better question is, why didn't Joe Rogan trend toward the left? Now, some of that is because of Joe Rogan. And when I say this, I mean the spiritual emergence of Joe Rogan, not the person himself, because I think that there are very specific reasons he as a person went towards the right. But there is this migration of an audience that I think is also interesting to ask, of going, why was there no alternatives that the audience might have been interested in? I think that that's the better question. And I think there's lots of people that can answer that in different ways. I think Adam Friedland is a great example of somebody who a lot of men like because he's funny, he's silly, he's a little bit provocative as well, right? Humor can be super effective. So I don't want to limit the tactics essentially that we want to try. I just want to make it okay that people are trying these different tactics, and then beg people to be genuine in their attempt. Like genuinely try to care about them voting for you. Like if that's what you want, like genuinely care about them, and then ask them what they need, right? Because at a policy level, there's like speaking with American men, there's like a strategic plan the Democrat Party has. Like young men are saying things like, when you ask me the question about what I hope for in the future, I'm reading a quote, I can't think of anything. There's no reason for someone to look forward to the future at this time. Like that's what young men are saying. And it's like, that's dismal. We have to have answers for this.
Yeah, go ahead, Econoboi.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in. I really think I disagree with a lot of this. It's not that I disagree with the idea that, you know, we should try to have at least some kind of a coherent strategy for reaching out to young men. But I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about this, I find one of the problems with the Democratic Party is almost like over-engineering solutions to like perceived problems with our electoral deficits. Look, at the same time that people talk about the, you know, collapse of young men supporting the Democrats, it's like we're talking about going from, you know, 55% support to like 50% support, right? I mean, if you just look at the exit polls, like this is not that big of a deal, aggregately speaking, right? Young men only represent like 6 or 7% of the election base. And when we talk about young people in general, young women are, you know, people don't talk about the complete collapse of support that Republicans have faced from young women. For God's sakes, the average young man is like a tilt conservative person, maybe 50-50. It kind of just depends on the election. The average young woman is like a Kim Jong-un level supporter of the Democratic Party. Like it is completely ridiculous, the percentages that Democrats pull from young women. That's a really, really good thing. But you don't see,
because they care about young women issues, like they do. I think they genuinely do. So they should.
I mean, I think that's a little bit misplaced. The reason I say that is because I think that when you start to peel back, like, okay, like what is a lot of this sort of social exclusion that young men feel? I think a lot of it comes down to these sort of broad trends in the economy over time and like social movements over time. A lot of social movements have frankly been focused away from white people and like empowering other groups of people, women, minorities, gay people, this kind of thing, right? And so you can follow that through with the support the Democrats have from various individual demographic groups, right? Like in this particular election, when you look at the young men that the Democrats lost, it's very disproportionately young white men and young Hispanic men, right? And there's stories that make sense for both of those groups. Like young Hispanic people are just assimilating and sort of becoming more median American and a little bit further away from their immigrant backgrounds. That seems to have meant that they've fallen more into sort of like a conservative viewpoint that a lot of Hispanic communities have. And then young white men, you know,
I'm sure he really appreciated that, Spencer. I'm sure he really appreciated that.
And like income and wealth accumulation over time, young white men have kind of been not left behind, but they've faced a lot of new competition in the economy, right? You know, men have to, generally speaking, compete with women in the workforce now. That's been a trend it kind of peaked over the last 20 years. But young white men,
I'm
people in
joking
their
about
early
the fact
20s,
that obviously I think Nick doesn't like when people, anyway, I don't think he likes people bringing stuff like that up to him, especially not acting like he's upset about it. I think he's one of those guys that gets under his skin a little.
They've fully grown up in that environment, right? That much more competitive environment than their parents did or their grandparents did. And that's caused wages for those people to stagnate, right? And look, I'm not saying that, you know, you can implement a socialist platform and solve all of these issues, but I think that these macro issues are, I think, broadly speaking, much more important. What can you do about societal inequality in general? That's the thing that can help a lot of these issues in general, right? Because it's,
but in order to do that, you need to
down.
But in order to do that, you need to win seats. And if you want to win seats, you have to I feel like you have to probably address the problem, right?
Well, there's
you do, but I think
here. We should if the Democrat Party stands for the party of liberal value, like the reason that I like the Democrat Party is that essentially I think it abides by the values that I have as a liberal, which is about like freedom of opportunity, that we respect other people, and other people includes men, right? And so it's like when people are like, well, why aren't the Republicans worried about losing women? I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about Republicans. To be clear, they're stupid for it. They should care about women. And I think it's bad that they don't, but I'm not a Republican and there's a reason that I'm not. On the left,
but I don't think you've demonstrated that Democrats just like don't care about men or young men, right? I mean, I think that you know, in part the reason why like a guy like Tim Walz is even the VP nominee is to try and appeal to young men. And I just don't think that well, that's my point there, Erudite, right?
Oh,
is that I think that
that's my point. Is that they picked
that's my point.
They picked Tim.
That's my point, Erudite.
Dude, this is rough. This is rough.
You can't steal my point from me. Anyway, go.
But that's my point. That they thought that Tim Walz was going to be the one that appealed to these young men. And they were clearly, I think, incorrect about this. And more importantly, I guess you're saying, well, there isn't like that much evidence. There's just this one election. Maybe it'll course correct. Maybe it will. That'd be fucking awesome. I have no problem with that. The issue is twofold. Number one, part of why I care about men is because I grew up with this mentality at the at-risk youth camp I worked at, which is that if we don't reach their hearts today, they'll break our hearts tomorrow. And that is particularly true of young men. Young men do like 98% of the crime, right? They are the most violent group. They are the most likely to do addiction and abuse, right? They are a very important group to reach. Essential. Right, at a very fundamental level. But also beyond that, if this trend continues, it's a really big deal. It's a massive deal. And we should be concerned about it, especially when we have Trump like less and less meme posting about a third term, right? We need to be concerned about this. And so I'm not saying everyone has to care about young men, but I am saying we need to make space for caring about young men, and you definitely shouldn't be shouting me down when I say that it is. Like even
oh my god, don't criticize me.
If you look at like the comments that will probably be coming from this and some of the hatred that I'll be getting, which I'm also getting support, my position isn't don't care about women. It's just let's also care about young men. Let's figure out what they want.
Mutually exclusive.
Well,
but they're not.
Right?
Yeah, this is the issue. These are not zero-sum games. Me advocating for young men doesn't mean that I hate women. and it shouldn't mean that, but it has become that, and that's harmful. And it's become that from both sides. There's not blame to fall on just women or just men, but the reality is that people shouldn't be so enraged when I say, yeah, I don't think Democrats are appealing to young men. I don't think that they like them, and I think that in a functional way. I don't really care if somebody says, Kyla, I really like you, and then they treat me like shit at all times. I'm like, I don't
But
like,
I don't. But
you
but
functionally,
Kyla,
you
that's
don't
not
like
true
me.
though, right? Democrats don't. I don't think Democrats have a. I mean, this is the thing that maybe Pisco. I don't know if we have a different view on this, but I don't think Democrats have demonstrated that they think of men as pieces of shit, right? Like, I think that what you have are a lot of broad cultural trends that are, complicated. There's a huge confluence of factors: social media alienation, economic alienation.
She could be factually correct, and I'm like, maybe the sky isn't blue.
That I've talked about that drives a lot of those trends. And we could certainly say that the Democrats have had kind of a blind spot for the needs and desires of young men. But I mean, to couch it in the rhetoric of like, Democrats have demonstrated that they hate young men. It's like, well, no, that's playing into the conservative bullshit talking point, I should say, that Democrats hate young men. And it's like, that's just not true. For instance, and here's a piece of evidence that I'll present. We've been having this conversation within Democratic spaces for several months now, right? Like, we've seen a lot of politicians come out and say, look, we need to appeal to young men. It is an important thing. It's on the margin important. It can make the difference between winning and losing.
Wait. What have I just seen?
Wait, he's playing League. So if you go to
today, he is now the definition of
it's like, okay, bro, calm down.
Like, we already see this. Did we already see this? That'd probably be funny. They were playing Doki Doki Literature Club. I think we already saw this, or I might have already seen this.
They started going on all these, you've seen like a lot of politicians start to go on all these alternative media spaces to try and directly appeal to them. I've seen no criticism from Democrats or Democratic insiders for people like Pete Buttigieg going on, the Andrew Schultz show or whatever. Like,
or Bernie
it's
Sanders,
been universal acclaim, right?
Yeah,
like,
now.
It took cratering for that to happen.
But it's there was
That's
no
the question.
crater, right?
What, Max? What, Max?
There's no crater.
It took losing ground for that to happen. I mean, like, surely you would agree that if Democrats did a lot better with young men, that could have been the difference between winning and losing, right?
But if what erudite is saying is right, which is that Democrats hate men, and they
Rhizome is friends with Pete and is online. There ain't no fucking way. There ain't no fucking way. What the? You went over this on Rao? When? Just now. Can you link me whatever this is that you're watching? Can you link me a timestamp or whatever?
hate the attempt to appeal to them, you would absolutely see a shitload of criticism from insider Democrats for other Democrats doing that.
And what is this clip that Aku's posting? Can you trust me? I feel like I look like I'm Alex, don't I?
You look like a skinny twink, but I don't know how to like describe it. You have the physiognomy of like a leftist, but I don't know. You kind of look slightly trustworthy.
Okay, awesome. Physiognomy of a leftist.
We don't see that, right? I mean, I think it's fair to say there was a blind spot.
I'm so glad we got
but
it
I don't think it's fair
awesome.
to essentially agree with this radical Republican line of.
Well, can we get her to
and
clarify?
Saying,
let's get some potential clarification. So, Kyla, is it your position that the Democratic Party collectively? I won't use the word hate, but
I said to him if there's ever a topic he wants to come and talk about. So hopefully, there's something he wants to chat about, or maybe he puts out a video that's more about politics, and I disagree with him. We can get him on, argue about it. That'd be awesome. Doesn't
like or is indifferent to men, or that is the perception that the Democrats have done little to thwart. To me, there's a subtle but profound difference there. That Democrats actively dislike men, or that Democrats have allowed that perception to fester.
I think that Democrats dislike masculinity, and dislike is hate, right? That's like, these words are basically synonymous. So hate is probably more punchy than people like. That's fine, right? Just like Republicans would never say, we don't hate black people. We just don't like them that much. right? We just don't like the culture that they have. We don't hate them. We just like don't like the crime and stuff like that. So sure, okay, they dislike.
Yeah, but in that case, right? In that case, you can point to maybe some tangible policies or some legislation or.
Wait, what'd she say? Sorry, I was distracted.
You just don't like them that much, right?
Wait.
And dislike is hate, right? That's like these words are basically synonymous. So hate is probably more punchy than people like. That's fine, right? Just like Republicans would never say, we don't hate black people. We just don't like them that much, right? We just don't like the culture that they have. We don't hate them. We just like don't like the crime and stuff like that. So sure, okay, they dislike.
Yeah, but in that case, right? In that case, you
don't
can
know
point to
sound.
maybe some
We just don't like them that much.
tangible policies or some legislation or statements made by Republicans with vis-a-vis black people or indeed of women. Do you remember? This is a deep cut, so I'm sure Erudite, you may not remember this because it's also maybe going over some people's heads in America. There was was it the former senator from Wisconsin or someone from Wisconsin maybe, who said that when women are raped,
thank you, Max,
their body has a way of flushing out.
Oh yeah,
Was it Todd Aiken? Yeah.
2012.
And even recently, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of statements that you can point to, actual statements that show that Republicans fucking hate women, and even a lot of Democrats, I think, fucking hate women. I'm not seeing the same shit. And maybe that's my bias. Maybe it's my bias because although I watch America First to see what Nick Fuentes is talking about, I watch a lot of the content these people watch, and so I feel like I'm adequately socializing myself. But in terms of like your mainstream Democrat, if anything, I think maybe it's some lack of or just like not being aware of some of these issues. But I don't know if you can say it's a genuine dislike. And to the extent that it's a dislike, or to the extent that they're not speaking to these issues, sometimes I think that's because they're being more civil in a way that I think is respectable. Like we shouldn't be denigrating.
This is the elite human capital hiding his power level that Fuentes was talking about. Okay, be very worried. Okay, be very worried. Be very concerned.
Off the cuff, like Trump is, regardless of because it's just not the right thing to do. And so I don't know. Maybe there are some concrete things, and surely,
right? We should be fierce.
Oh,
like
thank you.
No, I mean it.
Yeah, no, I think I mean it's.
And I bet you there's a lot of people on the left that think that you're a little too mean and too rude, right? And don't like it. And it's not really okay in polite society, right? So like, I'll be the first to say, I think Republicans hate women and black people a lot more than I think Democrats hate men, right? I think that's obvious in every single way, right? I wouldn't even begin to push on this. And when I say hate, I just mean a passionate dislike, right? And I'm talking of masculinity, right? So if I like plucked a random man out of the crowd and I asked Ro Khanna, do you hate him? Ro Khanna would be like, no. And Ro Khanna isn't going to move for a bunch of specific policies that are going to harm that young individual man. The issue is that Democrats, I would argue, would be happy if the quintessential young male experience was fundamentally erased. They don't want to talk about incels, right? They don't want to talk about how there's no safe alternative for externalization at all. They want to talk about how it's bad. It's always just bad, right? Because we've never taught people to have healthy forms of externalization. In fact, we barely even promote the gym, even though that's the healthiest form of externalization we can give men to work off their feelings, is going to the gym, right? And so I think there very much is this idea that there is a pressure amongst lots of left spaces that is angled against masculinity in the way that it quintessentially appears, not always, right? Young boys get in trouble for being more violent, even if they're not necessarily doing something bad. They're not allowed to roughhouse play, right? There's all these things that are bad and they're not allowed to do. And we see this for young men in left-leaning institutions.
When are you going to hit the gym, you scrawny fanboy, dude? Fuck you. I just wrote, dude, die. Actually, leave. I'm never going to the gym. I'm never going to the fucking gym, dude. Never ask me to go. Never tell me to go to the gym. Never ask me to go to the gym. Never ask me about the gym. Never ask me about quitting smoking. Never ask me about anything like that. Never, ever say anything like that in my chat.
Over and over and over again. And I think what we're telling young men is we don't like masculinity. We don't like it at all, right? In many ways, we fear it. especially women. And I think that there's good reason that we fear it. The issue is that that can't turn into dislike, and I think that it has.
What if we compare?
What about your heroin addiction?
I'm just reading.
The Skag. I've been using this for about 6 years. Oh. I'm completely dependent. Terrified of omitting my daily fix. Terrified of omitting.
Could so easily have been like that for me, but luckily the amount of heroin I use is harmless. I inject about once a month on a purely recreational basis. Fine. But what about other people, less stable, less educated, less middle class than me? Builders, or blacks, for example. If you're one of those, my advice to you is leave well alone.
Compare this to like the dynamics of a relationship and navigating conflict in a relationship. So how many of us have been in a situation where your partner expresses that they got their feelings hurt over something you said, and your impulse in that moment is to say, oh, I didn't mean it that way. You took it all wrong. Like we've all probably done that at one point or another. And then the longer you're in a relationship and you learn to communicate, over time you start to realize that it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't really matter if the thing is like true or false. What actually matters is just the feeling that your partner is having, and they want to feel supported and seen and heard and acknowledged in that moment. And if you can just do that and not focus on like trying to logic your way through it, then oftentimes you can get to a place of reconciliation a lot faster. So like, what if like Econoboi, your critique is valid, where like you're sort of questioning like how much of this anti-masculine bias is actually present in Democratic circles, but what if that doesn't really matter? Like if we have a situation where a lot of young men are saying that they feel like the Democratic Party hates men, how much are we going to get from saying, well, no, that's just not true? And how much more would we get if we just attack the problem like we would a relationship? You know, like,
I think that the issue is that if incels are not created in the way that erudite is saying, then they will not be destroyed with the solvency that erudite is presenting, right? What
incels are created, just to be very clear.
Well,
I'm not talking about incels.
You mentioned incels.
Well, incels
I thought I
are
heard
you
you.
Than young men. We're talking about young men. I think incels are like a subgroup of young men, like a subgroup of a subgroup.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think generally speaking, we're talking about the sort of rightward shift amongst young men. I think generally, and you used incel for a shorthand. I mean, I'm just using the same thing. But obviously, we're just talking about the general shift towards the right of Republicans or of young men into being a little bit more conservative, right? Now, I've made a lot of arguments in that regard, right? I've said, number one, right, that this isn't actually that big of a shift. Number two, I think what I haven't mentioned is that this election was compositionally different from 2020, that, you know, we had millions and millions of Biden voters just...
Like, yeah. I'm actually noticing quite a big flaw in Erudite's analysis here. He's assuming that some or even most of these people are incels or identify as incels or live the, like, stereotypical incel life, but it's actually a very small amount of people that are actually like incels. Yes, rates of like virginity, I guess, to a later age are more common, especially with men. Yeah, that's true. But that's not all just like the prototypical like incel that you think of. Right? I'm sure a lot of the guys that are shifting right and not having sex are actually like, you know, what an incel would see as a cad. Didn't know anything about them if they didn't know they didn't fuck. The incels are analogous to the eunuchs. They run the blogs. Based. That's based. Vast majority of guys are incels. So I just don't. I feel like there's a fundamental issue here, which is that extrapolating out incels to be everyone, and it's not because it's not like most of these guys that are shifting right don't know how to engage with polite society. Like that's something you were saying. That's not true. There's a small amount of people that like actually just don't know how to engage with polite society, like autistic people primarily, I would guess, or people with some other severe mental health problem. But that's not most of the guys that have shifted right.
Decide not to vote, right? And when you look at the poll that I was able to review, the one poll that I've seen in that regard, it didn't seem like this was a group of like conservative or like tilting right people who were deciding not to vote. This was like a more liberal group of people.
Yeah, so but Jojo and Stace is basically saying the same thing. It talks about men like they're retards. And erudite is this oddly romanticized view of the modern little boy who needs a perfect kind of guidance. Hers, yeah, and that's also destiny at the same time.
More left-wing group of people, right? And
They're
so,
all just like
when you look at a poll, for instance, that says
like
young men shifted to the right by 6 points.
They're all just like little Stevies, hating women and violating consent. Okay.
Well, we have to keep in mind so many, hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of young men just decided not to vote, right? And so that's a bit of a different. That would just change how you would address that issue. And I don't think there's a lot of great evidence to point to the idea that the reason why young men of the ones who've shifted to be more conservative, the reason that they've shifted to be more conservative is because they feel like Democrats have left them behind as a demographic group. Because when you poll young men, and my experience talking to young men who have shifted to the right, they pretty much say the same issues that a lot of people who voted for Trump say. They said, "Oh, I thought inflation was a big problem. Oh, I thought that the border was a big problem," right? I mean, and so when we really, really reduce this down, right, and we think about the exact kind of person that erudite is talking about, right? A young man who decided to vote conservative, or maybe decided to not vote in general because they feel like the Democrats have left behind their demographic group. That's just such a small group of people, right? And I do worry about over-calibrating on this issue because we do want to maintain our gains with young women. We should be, we should be worried, I think, about over-calibrating our solvency in that regard, because the reality, and I think the data does prove this, this is a very small group of people, even amongst young men.
I'm looking at the numbers here, and I don't think you're right, man. We went from.
Do you think that the institutions are solid, like the research institutions, like the DNC research institutions and whatnot? Do you think that you broadly trust their research and stuff?
No, I didn't really say that. I just said the Beaver. If you've got the clip of Vanguard's criticisms, send it to me.
People who are in political staffing and stuff, do you think that essentially the institutions is still on the left filled by competent, capable, thoughtful, informed people? I'm assuming you believe that.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean. I think I have a lot of criticisms for the institutional knowledge of the Democratic Party. It seems like that's what we're talking about, is that they've really missed a step here. And I would agree that, look, we lost.
The Party is just wrong here. There's multi-million-dollar studies going into this. Every politician agrees that this is an issue. Most think tanks agree that this is an issue. Everyone's putting their money into this as an issue, but you think they're all just wrong.
Well, okay, but erudite, you have to. There's two different kind of arguments being made here, right? There's the argument that, oh, we've lost young men and we've lost a margin of them. That is in dispute. You can just look at the data, right? There's no arguing that this is a huge problem. It's not. We didn't collapse or crater with young men.
Hold on. We should unpack that, because I'm looking over the last 10 years that went from Gen Z men went from 24% affiliated with the Republican Party to 45%.
And what was the Democratic?
But that's not a marginal shift.
Well, no. You have to look at how many of them are affiliated with Democrats and what their actual voting behavior is, right? Because a lot of people will register, but they won't actually vote. So look, I suppose to some extent I do care about people who don't vote, obviously, but we're talking about winning elections here, right? And when you look at the exit polls and you look at the analyses that are done of people that actually voted, you do see a rightward shift amongst young men. And it's a very disproportionate shift amongst Hispanic men and white men, right? And we have to think about, what are the reasons why that happened, right? And I think that a lot of the reason why that happened is because of, like I said, these long-term trends in cultural and economic alienation that affects a lot more people than just young men, obviously. But then
here's the thing, right? It's it's totally legit. If erudite wants to care about young men specifically and trying to get those votes, then she can do that. But it feels like basically what's happening is, because that's her pet issue, she's trying to narrativize it as being the issue, the thing that everyone needs to care about, the thing the Democrats need to be focusing on. And it just isn't. It just isn't at all.
To be in part, we see, for instance, a huge spike in the gender gap between 2016, 20, and 2024, which a lot of people have said that's just because we nominated women in those years, right? And I have a hard time disagreeing with that. That, look, we nominated women, and so the gender gap spiked. I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence, right? 2024 was not unusual in that regard either. And, you know, I just think that we, again, risk over-calibrating and we risk alienating other parts of the base, right? Like, we know that the Democratic base fundamentally is a base that can win elections.
The base? Like, why would saying male issues matter too be alienating?
Well, no. I'm not saying that it would necessarily alienate other parts of the base.
Also,
right?
yeah,
I'm
it's not just a matter of it's actually not just a matter of that. There's another thing happening here too, where I think her analysis is fucked, or like her solution is fucked or something, because I don't think it should be about pandering to quote unquote men's issues. I think, in fact, if you really looked at like what puts a lot of these men off, I think pandering to specific identity groups is one of those things. I would imagine, like, DEI stuff is such a huge talking point. I don't think, broadly, yeah, DEI IDPOL has been a huge talking point for like 10 years. I don't think broadly men actually want explicitly pro-men policies. I think they want to have it feel like things are working for everyone. They want that sense, you know. I don't think they actually want specific pro-male policies.
Just arguing for caution in this regard, that I think that a lot of the times you see Democrats and you see Democratic consultants who they say, this is my theory of the election, right? This is how we won, this is how we lost. And it ends up being a hyper focus on issues that are not exactly touching grass. And it ends up, you know, we end up missing the mark and potentially hurting ourselves. And I think that...
No, I don't think it is whites want DEI for themselves. I don't think that's what it is. I think that's dishonest. I don't think that's true at all. I think they feel like, you know, because they're in a good position, things must be fair. And so things should be left the way they are, basically. I don't, you know, I'm not even necessarily against, like, I think there probably should be less focus on helping specific identity groups and more focus on helping classes. You know, I think that is a better way of talking about politics, at least.
It comes to what you're saying, erudite specifically. Oh, one of the reasons we lost young men is essentially because of this like perception that Democrats just don't care about, at the very least, or at the most they hate young men. I'm just saying that it seems like when you poll young men, right, and you ask them, like, why did you vote for who you voted for? That's just not what they're saying, right? And so if that's not what they're saying, then,
so you think it's like economics and housing crisis and stuff, I'm assuming, is what you think like caused the right shift of men?
Yeah, it's a lot of broad trends, I would say.
So why is it
and those are hard to pick.
Affecting men?
Well, I mentioned before that I think that a lot of these broad trends have been to the benefit of women, right? So I talked about how, you know, women's labor force participation, for instance, it peaked around the year 2000, which is when a lot of these Gen Z and millennial men were being born, right? And so a lot of these men are born into a labor market that is so much more competitive than it was than when their parents were older. And that is very much a direct, the direct reason why that is because women have entered the workplace. And so women's wages have gone up a lot over time and men's wages have essentially stagnated, right? And that's not because of Democrats hating men or any sort of like terrible policy. It's literally just because we said women should enter the workplace, right? And so if we understand that that's a big trend that causes a lot of the alienation that young men feel, well, that's pretty complicated. You know, that's a lot more complicated than just like nominating a masculine man or like speaking to men's issues. Like one of the issues they're feeling, whether they say it or not, is the fact that women are fucking competing in the workplace. And it's not as exactly clear how you would like solve that as a problem.
But women have been competing in the workplace for a lot longer than this massive shift that we've seen, right? Like, it's not like it's new that women are competing in the workplace. Women have been in the workplace and competing quite effectively. I would say at like minimum, we've got to say the 90s. I don't have the data on the top of my head, but I think women have been increasingly doing super well, which is good, by the way. I don't have any problem with that. And so I don't know why women competing in the workplace suddenly would hit us in 2024 when it didn't hit us in 2016 or 2010.
Well, I've already said though, I've already said though, because women's participation in the workplace, it kind of peaked in the mid 90s to early 2000s, right? Like that's when all these men were born, right? And so all of these women who were born into that labor market and all these men who were born into that labor market, they were all born around that time, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that when you talk to a lot of college graduates who are graduating college who are men versus women, they have a lot of times very different, experiences, right? That they, a lot of young men will talk about, oh my gosh, it's ridiculously competitive. It's so fucking difficult to get a job, even if you have enough experience and all this and that. And I think that you could blame in some part, like maybe there's like DEI initiatives or something that makes it harder for men to get jobs somewhere. I mean, maybe that's tough. But particularly, though, a lot of those people have experienced essentially.
Yeah, Econoboi is actually, unfortunately, I don't like Econoboi, but he's talking sense.
A lifetime, particularly a competitive lifetime compared to many of their parents. And I think that that's a big reason why you're seeing their wages stagnate and their relative position in society also go down by a lot. I mean, they're in a world which is much more equitable than it used to be.
I dislike him actively because he totally he's like, not only is he kind of a boring prick, but he also actively cocked to Wu. He let her scream at him and act like a bitch. It's like so annoying. I hate that people let her get away with shit for so long.
And that's going to have a lot of transitioning to do. There's going to be a lot of transition to do in that regard.
You're supposed to be a politics debater guy. No? Have some fight.
Right.
Yeah, but if it peaked in the 90s, I don't know why it's taken like 25 to 35 years.
Because they're born around that time.
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying that this is your hypothesis, right? I'm telling you, your hypothesis doesn't feel very salient to me. It's not striking. And I have to take your hypothesis against the mountains of data that the Democrat Party itself has looked into and multiple think tanks who have come to a similar conclusion that probably reaching out to young men is important. And I have to go, maybe it's
Erudite. I've never said that reaching out to young men isn't important, right? We're talking about diagnosing the way that you reach out to them, right? And
okay, yeah, this guy's kind of
what's the things that you can speak to that actually effectuates a change in the beliefs of young men, right? And I mean, maybe there's some. You said you've referenced data here. I haven't seen the data that you're talking about that says that the reason why young men are voting more conservative, tilting more conservative, is because they feel like the Democrats hate them or have like substantially left them behind in a very direct demographic sense, right? I've said that, look, on this.
What the data says is that they typically cite, so I talked to the guy who ran that entire data program thing in the Blue Rose thing. And I asked him specifically, I'm super curious, how come you didn't include any of like the super cringe social justice? Because they gave a list of 40 kind of randomly selected issues as to what shifted their vote on exit polls. And nowhere on there was there any sort of social commentary thing that you could select, like really, other than DEI, which I think DEI is a red herring of the right, because I don't think DEI is a problem in any way, shape, or form. Right? I don't have a problem with like women and Black people being included, right? And overwhelmingly, we saw housing. And so when I asked the researcher, I don't want to name his name because I don't know if he wants it named. When I asked him, why didn't you include things like feeling disillusioned from the left, feeling like the left had gone too far?
Well, I wasn't muted. I'm just exasperated. I just say that it's just like they frame it as I don't have a problem with DEI. I think it's fine if women and Black people are included. It's like, okay, you're trying to win over young men, yeah? This is not how you do it.
Any like sort of like trans issues, he was like, honestly, we just didn't include it, but maybe we should have. So it's this very interesting thing where I understand the data that you're talking about, and I'm not opposed to more housing. What I'm interested in is why there's this massive rejection of what I'm saying, which is that I don't think the left cares much about men. I think that they actively dislike masculinity. I think that's evident in everything that people have been talking about since like 2016. I think this is emergent. I don't have super good data on all this because I mostly didn't come prepared to have data on this topic specifically right now. I also suspect that the research hasn't been fully done in all of these areas, but I think men are increasingly feeling disenfranchised. I think some of that is because young men don't know how to cope with a different world, right? And we haven't given them the strategies to do so. We just expect them to be better, which I don't think is really fair. We don't really expect that of any other group. And what I'm advocating for is I
definitely haven't rewound it. So if she said this before, she's repeating herself.
To find a way to appeal to young men, because it is obvious It is obvious if you just look at the polls, if you just look at who's voting, look at who's watching what, that young men are...
Is Pisco beaten off? I've got on good authority Pisco keeps it at 75.
The problem is, the Democratic Party doesn't have the same grounding in the labor movement centre-left parties elsewhere have. ALP won overwhelmingly with men and women here despite having gender quotas.
Thank you for the $10, Miss Howard. Thank you.
Are increasingly not watching left-leaning stuff, and I am concerned that this trend is continuing and getting worse, not better.
Well, I am going to
Sorry, just to clarify real quick, there was I'm looking at the data right now. I've looked at a few different polls. I can link you this poll here so you guys know I'm looking at a poll, but they see a 9-point drop just between 2023 and 2024. A 9-point drop with Gen Z guys. I mean,
again, right? Like that might be registrations or like party identification, but that's not like actually voting behavior, right? So that's the only thing I'm saying. Here's what I would expect. Here's my prediction. Okay, I would predict that when we look at the exit polling data for the 2026 midterm, we're going to see a big shift to the left amongst young men, right? And look, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe these trends will be perfectly static, right? But if my theory of composition of the electorate matters and my theory of a lot of these broad issues and macro issues matter, we would probably expect that, right? Now, and I think in 2028, that'll probably be a generally favorable year for Democrats because Trump will probably be unpopular. The next nominee for the Republicans won't have the riz that Trump has, right? I expect you'll probably see the same thing, right? And obviously it'll take years for these theories to bore out, and things can change along the way. But I think that a lot of elections comes down to luck of the draw in terms of the macro environment. It comes to being the right person for the confluence of factors, the cultural factors of the moment, right? And I don't know that it's. I agree with Kyla that this stuff matters, and you should have a strategy to
wait, touching your face, bro. What are we doing?
Out to young men, but it's very, very marginal, right? And I think that we should probably encourage us, and I don't even know if Kyla would disagree with this, that we should probably encourage a soft touch in this regard, because I think that we do risk kind of like, we do.
I literally can't look. It does just look like he's jacking off, dude. I can't do this.
Risk like gaining support amongst young men and maybe losing support amongst other people, depending on what we do, of course.
It's so juvenile.
Like a lot of the polling, for instance, that I saw when it came to how women evaluated Trump was they hated his brashness. Oh, one of the reasons I hate Trump is because of how brash and how you could say like hyper masculine he is, right? And a lot of people, and I'm not.
Wait. What are we saying? Are we suggesting that? Wait, my trackpad isn't working. What's that logo? Do we have a confirmed match? Confirmed match? Dude, these people are all frauds. I'm the only one who just does everything off the dome. I am the only real streamer left. This is crazy, man. God. What a fucked up world. Unpunished frauds and phonies everywhere.
Saying erudite saying this, but it seems like a lot of people are like, oh, if we just had like Stephen A. Smith as a perfect, people are like, oh, Stephen A. Smith is the perfect antidote for this because he's such a masculine like sportsman. And it's like, bro, if we nominated Stephen A. Smith, we're probably sacrificing as many women who are going to vote for us as men who might additionally vote for us, right? So is this a winning exercise? Like, and again, I'm not saying that's what erudite's saying. I think there's some nuance here that's important to inject into this conversation. So.
Yeah, I think, like, for example, if you said, when it comes to political policy, does policy making on young men issues
political policy
matter more than economic issues? I would say no, like absolutely not. Economic issues and housing issues are the biggest issues facing us. Unquestionably, that is the most important thing in my mind, right? Unquestionably. So I would never be advocating for gender-specific stuff, right? Unquestionably. So I would never be advocating for gender-specific stuff over things that globally help everyone. What I'm advocating for is saying, look, there is an issue, and waiting on just like, there is data on this, and there's increasing data on this, but also as somebody who worked with the Democrats, when you go with like So the Democrats always have a very data-first policy, which sounds really nice. The issue is that it's really, really hard to tap into good data on this sort of thing. For example, it's really hard to poll people and ask them, hey, how do you feel about X thing? And know that you're getting an honest answer, right? One of the issues that the research group has is that it's really hard to ask questions when it comes to socio-cultural stuff and know that you're going to get like valid answers, in part because people don't necessarily want to report on it, right? In part because people don't know precisely what they think about it, and also because people are dishonest on these types of polls a lot of the time, particularly with socio-political stuff. There's also a lot of botting that typically happens more often with polls that include socio-political, socio-cultural stuff. So there's even worse data on it. In fact, they have like Blue Rose at least adopts at least 6 different questions that are sociocultural exclusive to basically exclude out trolls, bots, and people taking the like forms from like Uganda and other countries that aren't American, right? So there's a huge issue with like the quality of data. I would agree with that. The issue is that when we're talking about young men, I would say the red pill is huge. That's unquestionable. Men, I think, are increasingly becoming misogynistic. The dating divide is bad. They're not dating each other. They're not interacting with one another. I think that that's not good, right? The internet is radicalizing young men increasingly. And I think the trickle effect on politics is maybe lesser. It's possible that the next year they won't vote, and that's fine. And I get so frustrated because people are like, yeah, this is just vibes.
I agree with all that.
When it comes to things like social media, a lot of it is avant-garde vibes. You have to do your best. Why the fuck do young men listen to Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, and some of the biggest podcasts in the world?
Sorry, I've been seeing. Labor the $5. It'll probably help Labor, the biggest online advocate, friendly Geordies, relentlessly smeared as sexist and racist by all the media. What, you mean the media going after and bolstered support? Is that what you're saying?
It's hard to distill it down. This is my theory. If somebody has a better theory, I'm open to it. But I think that this theory emerges consistently, which is that the left doesn't like masculinity. They would never say that they hate men. They hate masculinity, though. And they do not erect alternative scripts that young men find compelling. And you see that in the evidence basis of those who subscribe to far left-leaning and left-leaning content creators in general. The best content creators on the left that have men, young men particularly, are very masculine coded, like Pisco and Hutch and you guys, because you're aggressive.
Okay.
Of those who subscribe to far left-leaning and left-leaning content creators in general, the best content creators on the left that have men, young men particularly, are very masculine coded, like Pisco and Hutch and you guys, because you're aggressive debate bros. Those are the guys who get young male viewers. Though you're the only ones. I'm telling you,
that's not true. It's not aggressive male debate bros though. Debating actually does not get you any viewers, to be honest. Well, I mean it can. That's not totally true. That's not true at all. But you can just look. Destiny is not really that successful in the grand scheme of things. I mean, he is really successful as a streamer, obviously compared to most people, but yeah, he's not at the top level. Hassan and Asmongold are at the top level. Hassan and Asmongold literally never debate. Like once every 6 months, if that. You know? Like, so this just is not true.
The Democrats can't even find content creators that have young males. They're like, who are they? And when I tell them I have like 90% young male, they're shocked. They're like, really? That's crazy.
So I think we can find I think we got some common ground on that at least at the
Right, Hutch. I don't hate Hutch completely. He looks like a soy jack. He's just a soy jack. Josiah's not far off. Now, Pisco's awesome and we love Pisco. The less said about Econoboi, the better, frankly.
The culture messaging stuff should improve.
And that you and I are masculine.
Yeah, we're very, very masculine. Obviously, we're very, very good. But I do think that we have too many kissless virgins, and we need to improve that somehow. And I don't know if that means getting people, a better, I don't know, diet of content, or better liberal leftist creators who appeal to kissless virgins. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe
we need Democrats to support you guys. This is the thing. We need Democrats to, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I show them Pisco shit, some of them will bite because they're finally getting it. Most of them will be spooked. They will not like Pisco's content. It's too mean. They unironically think it's too
mean.
I'm telling you, I show them debates. I am telling you, this is what they are saying. They want to go with people who will do classic partisan talking points and not be too mean. That's what they go with every single time. And what we have to do is find a way in the culture, right? The social media level we need to win, but behind that has to be some level of political granting, because if you don't think the Daily Wire and TPU wasn't instrumental for shifting men towards the right, you're on some kind of like crazy shit. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think ironically we agree with a lot of the solutions that you talked about, right? Because I would agree that like you need a very comprehensive social media strategy, and you need a lot of these, you know, it's good to see that the Democrats are at least like agreeing that we do need alternative media appearances in our own alternative media ecosystem. Obviously, like, you know, if that's like, you know, the Dean Withers, you know, style alternative media ecosystem, or if there's more, you know, kind of like bullish masculine figures that you could, you know, try to get as well, then I guess that's it'll be hard to see what they actually end up wanting to invest in. But we agree with that. Yeah, we agree.
So, guys, I've got some terrible news for you. Some horrible stuff is happening right now. Truly terrible stuff is happening right now. Really bad news for you guys right now. Dean Withers tweets, "Some lunatic just followed me and my girlfriend and shot us with a BB gun, grazing my girlfriend's hair. After missing, thank God they were a terrible shot. They fled the scene." Oh, wrong one.
Basically, what you're saying is Pisco and Hutch, maybe Econoboi, need to do a college tour.
That would be amazing.
I'll do a college tour.
You guys should join Unfuck America, and do like debates at college and like follow Charlie Kirk around.
Call it Refuck America. Because unfuck is like it's collapsed. It's done, right?
Lose the just fuck America.
Just fuck. Yeah. Oh, good meme. Yeah. What the? I didn't expect this to be. I think this was our most
Pisco being corny there.
Vigorous debate we've had on Live and Learn. Is that fair, Josiah?
I'm not gonna lie.
I wasn't here for Brad Palumbo.
I don't think that anything I'm saying is crazy. I see people.
Dude, I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it.
People in the chat being like, so what? Her point is just that we should like value masculinity a little bit more.
Dude, this is like a Destiny audience too, or like at least it's like a lib audience that shouldn't just hate her. But I guess chat has, but I haven't even been paying attention to the chat. I guess she really has. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking simple. I'm not saying something crazy. I'm not saying that Democrats should I'm not saying anything crazy here. It's really simple shit. The right is appealing to young men, especially at a media level. That affects voting, politics, and
I am your expert.
We need to get better at it because we fucking suck right now. And part of why we suck is because we hate masculinity.
I think like the knee-jerk reaction, not to drag this out because I'm sure we want to wrap up soon, but I think like the knee-jerk reaction is like, we've seen so much disingenuous sort of like pandering to young men in like really toxic ways with some of the usual cast of characters and the Andrew Tates and et cetera,
send her back. Okay, send her back.
And so I think there's this like impulse. I know I felt this impulse for a really long time. Like anytime anybody brought up the concern about young men, my impulse was to just be like, just to push it away. I'm telling you, that was my reaction for years. And I'm not saying like, we should be like more like Andrew Tate, but now I'm starting to get like a little bit more.
Wait, Kyle, to clarify, you are also not recommending that either, right?
Drop of it. I'll become a MAGA show if Trump is destined president of Bald Erudite. Okay.
Andrew Tate and every Democrat.
That's my Bugatti.
No, but I think we have a valid reason to be skeptical because like there's so many examples of grifters that are, pushing like I would say like really bad narratives about why young men are the way that they are. And so like there's this impulse to like not even want to think about it, which I understand. But I personally found your arguments to be persuasive, erudite, and I'm sure a lot of other people. I know I saw a lot of other people in chat that did as well. So.
And the chat's reaction to this conversation.
So you got now.
There are deranged reactions happening right now to saying the left doesn't like masculinity.
Dude,
just be honest.
Like actually so pressed by the chat, bro. This is so fucking crazy.
We should probably get better at that and offer them a healthy alternative to masculinity that they will appeal to.
Dude, Pisco's like grimacing.
Let's do it.
Kyla,
Econoboi is trying to keep a straight face.
As a coder, real quick, I do find it telling that the Jargate situation with Andrew Wilson was so like impactful for people, and it really just felt like a veil was lifted off a lot of people's eyes, and the reaction has been so strong and the meme's so good because what is like a classical masculine trope of this opening of the jar, that he was at once,
so
castigating a woman for being able. Yeah, it was so
mangy fucking loser. And then her boyfriend
boy looking mighty Chinese right now.
It for him, like, bro.
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
Her boyfriend popped it open for her.
It was pretty devastating. Yeah.
I think there's a video of
and terrifying. Social media politics is so much about, like, this is when people are like, what's the data and the facts? I'm like, we're probably not caught up because data takes a long time to do really well. That's just true. And I love data, but people don't even care, especially the right. And anyways, do you think voters right now care about data? Like, they don't give a fuck. What they want is like,
will we look back on this?
Appeal there and then get good policy that's data driven.
Will we look back on this, Kyla, in a few years?
You people. Josiah must have a big brain. His head is huge.
Turning point for in the battle
shows the male fragility.
Souls. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be a slide in the high school U.S. history courses, like Jargate.
You greased it. You fucking greased it,
man. Yeah. It's terrifying that it's all vibes and feels when it comes to social media winning. It's not good, but that is the game that we're playing right now. And so we have to be able to show up, basically. And I think you guys are doing a pretty good job.
I'm somewhat. I was just gonna say, like, on a kind of to end this on an optimistic note. It's certainly far from where it needs to be, but I am cautiously hopeful about the Democrats moving forward, because one of the things that, like, I've been hearing, and I mean, IRI's having conversations with Congress people. I think Hutch has had, and Pisco had, and I'm having conversations as well. They recognize that they've got to, increase their game, their social media outreach.
Rokana on this pod. That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny because while you all were talking, I saw a tweet from Rokana from like 45 minutes ago where he's on, I guess that's a clip from TYT, Pisco's favorite progressive podcast, where he's talking about, how Democrats have failed young men and stuff like that. So there's at least, they're at least paying lip service to the notion that they fucked up and they need to do better. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But listen, it was really good having you on. And it actually says something, because this is by far the longest.
Not gonna lie, honestly, being a ChatGPT debater is the most expected thing could have come out.
Live and learn. We've lived and learned the longest, like, by far. Like, my boomer ass, like, part of me died an hour ago. Yeah.
I'm gonna say top 5 guests, top 5 discussion. Yeah.
We've only had 4 guests, asshole. What are you talking about? Okay.
I just like, Kyla, you're really great.
Dude, is Hutch trolling? Is Hutch trolling right now? Dude,
my boomer ass, like, part of me died an hour ago. Yeah.
I'm gonna say top 5 guests, top 5 discussion. Yeah.
We've only had 4 guests, asshole. What are you talking about? Okay.
I just like, Kyla, you're really great. Trust me, Kyla.
Actually, to your point, yeah, that's probably true. But I mean, like, top 5 episode, I was gonna say.
Okay, there you go. There you go. We've had at least 8 guests. Right. So
despite the spice, I just want you guys to know, I vehemently believe in you guys. I am going to keep pushing, because I think you guys have the informed policy side, and I'm not looking for that. I already said I'm not an expert in domestic policy. Like, anything I can get you guys access to, I'm gonna keep doing. I'm in touch with some tours. I'm gonna be putting your guys' names in. Like, I really genuinely believe you guys. I think you guys are doing good things, and I think data-driven policy is super important. So good job.
Did you ever, and I don't know how much you can reveal about that, but that person that you were thinking about getting on whatever, do you know what I'm talking about?
It was a big, hard no. Ezra Klein would have
by them or
it was
by
a proceduralism failure is what it really was.
Gotcha.
Ezra Klein is like, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that did not pan out. Gotcha.
No.
Oh, and Econoboi wants us to shout out the Live and Learn Discord.
Yeah, throw that link on the screen, Josiah. Guys, we shouted out the Discord, and pretty much after one shout out, we were able to get like 300 something members, which is pretty awesome. Wow. That was several months ago. Well, it feels like it was several months ago. So guys, go to the link that Josiah is rapidly trying to get onto the screen. I'm sure.
Shut up! I am
trying his best. Okay, this is way past his bedtime.
Fuck you. Okay, listen.
No offense. You look a little sleepy.
Like Joe Biden.
Sleepy Josiah. Sleepy Josiah.
There's gonna be a book called Unoriginal Sin.
Oh, you're sharing the screen.
Oh, you're booming.
You wanted me to share the screen, didn't you?
No, the message that I sent. The message that
I can't share the screen. I can't share the screen that I'm currently on. It can't be done.
Josiah, what you do is you take that link, you post it in chat, then you share the message on screen. I'm sorry. I didn't think I needed to explain this to you, Josiah. I'm sorry.
Fuck. Why is Pisco referencing fucking Costco, guys? Dude, kill me.
Fuck you, okay?
No,
hang on.
But guys, anyway, while he is rapidly trying to get that on the screen,
look at this Live and Learn thing. Econoboi invited me to it. Let me put it in chat real quick.
It's a really great Discord, lots of great discussion, and I think the show has grown since.
If you want insight to the resurgence of Oz Labour nationally, watch ALP Sec Paul Ericsson's talks at the National Press Club discussing their strategy. I think you'd find it interesting.
All right, I'll keep that in mind, Spencer. Thank you for $10.
Then, so be sure to join our Discord if you want to.
How long is it?
Hang on, all four of us are in the Discord. Maybe Hutch, are you in the Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, Hutch is in the Discord supposedly as well. But look, at least the three of us are in the Discord. So
no, I mean,
please join, guys. Yeah, please join, guys, because we're trying to create of course, something of a live and learn community. So join up and
a cult, really.
That's true, a cult.
Yeah.
That's a good
King
point.
Media is in chat just says, I will not be joining.
And we also have a YouTube channel, the Live and Learn, youtube.com/@liveandlearn, where I think a lot of our VODs get actually uploaded. People are like,
all of them are there.
Oh, you know,
you can tell he's got it fucking on the.
Well, because we stream distributed.
What is the promo posting? Erudite going on tour. Erudite come to Apesill. Erudite gonna turn these boys into men. Boom, 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 boom. With just apes. Dude,
people are like, where do we find all the VODs? You know, it's like, just go to the Live and Learn YouTube channel.
I'd like you to make a targeted pitch to young men to join the Live and Learn Discord on the fly. Could you do that, please?
Okay, let's wrap this up, boys. I got to feed
Let's wrap it up. In my life.
Kyle, where can people find you?
Yeah.
You can find me everywhere at NotSoErudite. It's spelled like how you see it on the screen. If you want to fight me, I do debates. I'm starting to try to do them 3 times a week. So yeah, and I'll be on Tim Pool on Friday talking about the same topic. So if I'm
is it Culture War?
Angry, I'll make you angry again.
Is it Tim Pool Culture War?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's gonna be. I can't remember. Did they live stream these?
I don't know. They said
I gotta go, guys. I love you.
All right.
Yeah.
See you, buddy. Bye.
It says it's like 11 to 1, so I don't know if that's live. I don't know.
It's live streamed.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So catch her on Tim Pool. Kyla, thank you so much, and boys, it was good chatting with you all too, and a special fuck you to Pisco.
A special fuck you to Pisco, was that?
Thank you so much, and boys, it was good chatting with you all too, and a special fuck you to Pisco.
Dude.